idea of what's in this document, which is 1,648 pages. It's a big document. I don't expect everybody to have read it, but she'll give a summary. Then we're going to have our Director of Finance, Angela Marino, give you the financial reasons or understanding of what the proposed changes in a master plan would have financially for the city and why. And then we'll have Pascal Tanguay, which is our Director of Legal Services and City Clerk, explain the legal process of what's happened prior to this meeting and what is going to happen after in terms of process. I'm just going to give general introductory remarks to get everybody understanding of where we're at and what we're at. We are not at a place in time right now where we have any proposed projects in front of us and anything being developed. The master plan talks about ideas and gives us a vision of what we hope, what we need. The last master plan didn't even know about technology or the environment or cell phones or a smart city or anything. I mean, it's historic. How many years ago was it? Like over 2004. So life was completely different then. So we need a master plan now that reflects the reality of today and brings in all those things. But once again, it's ideas, it's a vision, it's a hope that we can provide the services that people need in 2025 and beyond, and that we can provide them well, such as responding quicker to somebody who needs it in the proper location, having an emergency service closer to the people that need it most, so that that response time that might be 4 or 5 minutes could go down to 2 or 3. It deals with everything that we would hope that we can do. It doesn't mean we're going to do it tomorrow, because I'm just giving you that as one example. So you build a facility, or you hope to build one. You need to get finance. You need to get a developer. You need to figure out a way. Could be 10 years, could be 5 years, could be 15 years, but it's a hope, it's a vision. So all these discussions here are hopes and visions of what we would like to do in order to provide housing for our elderly, for our youth, in order to provide a nightlife and services, a dream that we would basically in Côte Saint-Luc have the ability to really have restaurants and a Starbucks and hopefully maybe something if we have enough housing, enough people living here to support what we hope would come as a result of providing housing and more people that would be able to provide the need for people to want to come, businesses to want to come to our city because they're not going to make a living. You know, we don't want to have malls that are dying. We want to have commercial streets that are thriving day and night. We want to have Monkland here in Côte Saint-Luc. We want to have, you know, Green Avenue here in Côte Saint-Luc. How do we deal with that? How do we get it there? It's not going to happen in a minute. It might take, I hope it happens in my lifetime, but it takes time. So these are all ideas. But everyone has to understand, just because they're ideas doesn't mean a developer gets to do anything without going through the process. He has to go to the Town Planning Commission, submit a proposal, it has to go through PAC, PAC has to approve it, then it has to go to Council, Council has to approve it. It is not something that just happens overnight and it takes a lot of time. But it's our dream. So that's what we're here to discuss. There are things in the master plan that sound terrific, sound maybe not as great, depending on where you live and who you are. But overall, council and staff particularly, I have to say, have worked very hard over the last 2 years to present something that is attractive, not perfect. And why I say it's not perfect and where we're at now is we're here today, and on January 13th, we're having a consultation, and then on February something, we have another one. It's to get your ideas, to see what else is wrong with it, and how we can make it better, and how it should change. And that's why we need more input, and we're having these meetings. And that's one of the reasons why you're here today, and you'll come back on January the 13th and February, whatever the date is, and we'll keep on getting that input. And we will take it from people that are here in person, and we'll take it from people that are here online, and also by email and any other way that we can. We're living in 2025, so you can reach us. There's no question that no matter where you are, whether it's in Florida over the winter or whether you're here in Montreal, you can reach us day and night. Just send us an email, call us, come to us, we'll speak to you and we'll get back to you and deal with those concerns. So without further ado, I'm going to let the presentation go on. Je vais demander à Tanya Bramvich de faire la présentation, premièrement, de le master plan qui existe maintenant. Comme je vous avais expliqué, c'est juste un plan maintenant qui peut être changé avec vos idées et ce que vous pensez doit être changé. Et ce qui reste, j'espère que ça va être bon pour la communauté at large. I mean, you know, that's the point. Okay, so I'll let you start, and then we'll move to Pascali, to Angelo, and then Pascali. And then we're going to have a question for you.
Okay. Daryl, I have shared, but I do not see it. I did share it. I am sharing it according to this. I'll share it again. Share. There it is. Is there any way to move the bottom away? Yeah, okay. Bonsoir aux résidents et à toutes les personnes intéressées par l'avenir de la Ville de Côte Saint-Luc. Good evening, residents and all people interested in the future of the City of Côte Saint-Luc. Je m'appelle Tania Abramovich. Je suis la directrice générale associée.
Because they need to hear you also, not only here loud, but wherever they are.
Je suis la directrice générale associée, stratégie urbaine à la Ville de Côte Saint-Luc, and I will present an overview of the plans and bylaws that Council will be voting on later this evening. There is really only one overarching goal for tonight's presentation, qui est de vous donner un survol du plan d'urbanisme et tous les projets des règlements qui y sont attachés et qui vous seront présentés ce soir. I have one goal tonight, and that's just to give you an overview of the master plan and all the related bylaws that Council will be passing tonight. Although we are in the habit of calling it the master plan, and historically that's what they've all been called, it is formally known as the planning program in the LAU, the law which governs it. The terms are interchangeable, they mean the same thing, so I may call it the planning program or I may call it the master plan, I'm talking about the same thing. En français, c'est plus facile, c'est uniquement le plan d'urbanisme. We started with this process. Okay, why isn't it moving to the next one? Daryl? I know how to move the slides forward and it's not doing it. Why is it not doing it? What did you put down? Okay. So just as a reminder, we started this process in 2022 together with you in our pre-consultations, which lasted a year. There are reports of these sessions, which you could read on the Engage page. I have them here, but they're readily available for your perusal. Following these activities, we worked with a consulting firm called BC2 in 2023 and 2024, so last year and a half, to produce a revised planning program and planning bylaws, meeting the City Council every step of the way. On September 16th, 2024, we held a public information session during which we went over the different steps in the process and outlined some of the key elements in the master plan, namely the vision statements as well as different goals and objectives of the strategic planning document. Aujourd'hui, nous allons entrer dans les détails des changements spécifiques qui seront apportés à notre règlement d'urbanisme. If you haven't been following along this whole time, for the last few years, I encourage you to go to côtesaintluc.org/engage, côtesaintluc.org/contribuer to read the two What We Heard reports and watch all the sessions and read all the reports so you can get caught up. Because there is such a large number of documents and bylaws, we want to help orient you and give you what amounts to an executive summary so you know what to expect and what to look for when you read further on your own. Tonight is not a consultation, as how could it be when you haven't seen anything yet? Ce soir, il ne s'agit pas d'une consultation, car comment cela pourrait être si le cas vous n'avez pas encore vu? Tonight is merely to present things to you in their draft form, because there's a lot of material, and we are giving you plenty of time to read and absorb everything for the actual public consultation, which, as the mayor said, was January 13th. Everything I will be talking about will be available for your perusal on the Engage website tonight, if not tomorrow. Tous les documents et les règlements sur le site web seront disponibles ce soir ou demain après la séance. Please look at them, read them, come prepared for the January consultation. So we're going to start with what are we actually talking about tonight? There's a long list of things, so I'll just read them to you. The draft bylaw 2641 revising the planning program. Annexed to this is the special planning program for the town center of the City of Côte Saint-Luc. We're passing draft zoning bylaw 2637, which comes with the zoning map and other maps and tables of uses and norms. We're passing the draft subdivision bylaw 2636, the draft bylaw concerning site planning and architectural integration plans, SPAIP or PIIA 2638. Draft permits and certificates bylaw 2639, draft building bylaw 2640, the draft bylaw 2631 to improve the supply of affordable social and family housing, and the draft demolition bylaw 2644. So it's a full roster of things. Côte Saint-Luc's local policies are required to conform with the policies and planning documents produced by higher levels of government. See it as a series of Russian dolls of cascading orders of hierarchy, each having to conform to the one above it. The provincial government sets the orientations which the regional authority, the Communauté Métropolitaine de Montréal, CMM, must respect. They create the regional plan called the Plan Métropolitain d'Aménagement et de Développement, or the PMAD. This document is currently being revised as we speak. A draft has been made public. We've certainly seen it. We've revised it. We've commented on it. We already know what it contains, and since we will ultimately have to conform to it, we kept it in mind when making our plan. The agglomeration of Montreal is the next level of government down, part of the Montreal metropolitan community, along with Laval, the South and North Shores. Côte Saint-Luc is, of course, part of the agglomeration, whose planning document is called the Schéma d'Aménagement et de Développement, the SAD, or as we will, from here on in, refer to it as the Schéma. We always talk about the Schéma, it's the AGLO document. Finally, each city in the AGLO creates their own plans and related bylaws, which is what we're presenting tonight. So why are we doing this? Why are we bothering with these changes? Côte Saint-Luc's current master plan and urban planning bylaws are outdated. We have a legal obligation to keep our planning policies and regulations up to date, and many things have changed in our city as well as the broader global context. Today's realities include housing and mobility crises, climate change, post-pandemic realities, online retail, demographic changes, and reduced purchasing power, among many other things. Furthermore, the pre-consultation activities revealed many additional preoccupations, issues that people indicated would improve their quality of life, which we took very seriously and transposed into our vision, goals, and objectives for this project. As a reminder, the planning program is a municipality's most important development planning document. It establishes guidelines for the city's spatial and physical organization, the landscape, while presenting an overall vision for the development in its territory. It touches the entire city, which includes the 3 mall redevelopments, plus Westminster Corridor top to bottom, Caldwell area, and the rest of the city as well. It is really not about this or that development area. It's about every single part of the city. The first half of the document is just an analysis of what is, a summary of our territory and its people, with some comparisons to other areas. The next part talks about the issues we need to deal with, and then goals and objectives. It's a systematic document. These are tied to action items, or the intervention strategies, as they are known. The biggest themes are connectivity and the elimination of barriers, encouraging mixed use and improving the commercial offering, improving public spaces, resilience to climate change, community cohesion, safety and well-being, and quality urban design and human-scale developments. The draft bylaw 2641 will replace the city's current master plan, which dates to the city's borough era, and will bring it up to speed with the latest urban planning realities, namely in terms of sustainable development, densification, and increasing mobility options. So this is just a snapshot of what the master plan looks like. I have a copy with me, the physical copy right here. You will be able to peruse it probably as of tomorrow. And what is the vision statement that's guiding this whole principle? In the heart of the island, Côte Saint-Luc is a connected, safe, and resilient community where all generations can thrive and partake in vibrant public and commercial spaces, enjoying a range of viable housing and mobility options. The Town Centre Special Planning Program, or the Plan Particulier d'Urbanisme, is in the annex of the master plan. So if you look at it, here's the master plan, and then there's the annex, and then you have the plan for the town center right inside it. Or if you're on screen, you just keep scrolling down until you hit the blue. The Town Centre or Special Planning Program is not just about the Quartier Cavendish, but but involves the whole area from Kildare to Mackle and from Marc Chagall to Einstein, also including the Trudeau Park. It also provides more detailed snapshots of what exists, as well as laying out guiding principles with actions and criteria, along with a time horizon for each item. It's highly readable, it's very visual. Both it and the master plan are both, they're not like reading bylaws, they're actually very, I want to say, attractive and colorful documents. You can see in the spatial organization concept what aspects are intended for the central redevelopment site. This isn't a plan. I've got to iterate over and over and over again. It's a concept of what we want to see. So we want to have a plaza in the middle. We want to have a pedestrian area with commercial. We want to have protected bike paths. We want to have safer crossing at intersections. So this is just a spatial organization concept that you can find in this document. Now we're going to move on to the zoning, and zoning is possibly the most important draft bylaw we're presenting tonight. The draft zoning bylaw 2637 will totally replace the current zoning bylaw 2217, which, like the master plan, is outdated. Zoning is the bylaw where uses, heights, setback, parking ratios, and so many other things are outlined. It consists of the text of the bylaw itself, the zoning map plus other maps, terminology, and most importantly, the tables of uses and norms. I realize these sound like, what are you talking about? I'll show you what they look like. One of our underlying goals was to remove the irritants in the current zoning bylaw. So right now, if you want to do something with your property, you have to look in many places to know what to do. The bylaw is hard for residents to understand, and worse, it's hard for our staff to understand, to apply it. There's a bit of a mess in there. We've streamlined everything and also tried to look at things like minor exemption requests over the last many years to see where we could prevent the need for them. Like, why make residents go through that every time if we can prevent it? We've also added a lot of explanatory diagrams so people can understand. So basically, in this simplification, we've revamped the zoning map, which I will show you in a minute. We've simplified the tables of uses and norms. We've updated the classification, consolidated all the amendments, 59 of them. We've taken parts of the bylaw and turned them into other bylaws. So the PIA used to live in zoning, now it's its own bylaw. The minor exemptions bylaw, the same thing, which we're not passing tonight, we've already changed it. Parts of other bylaws were also incorporated into the zoning, which includes waste and also construction. We reduced the need for minor exemptions, and we also moved to metric, New World Order. So this is a zoning map. This is the zoning map, what it looks like now. We have, in our current zoning map, we have 235 existing zones, and this got reduced to 210. We mostly amalgamated ones that have pretty much the same in terms of both building typologies and also use. We're working on an interactive version, so instead of staring at a PDF like this, you will be able to go in, find your zone, click on it, and see what you can do and what can be done there. So this is around the corner. We're already working on that. There's also a simplified table of uses and norms. So forget reading it, it's not the point. The current tables of uses and norms look like the one on the left. You follow the column down, down, and then there's a zillion notes, and it's very hard to follow. Every single one of the zones here will now have its own table of uses and norms, which is clear and easy to understand. I realize this is administrative and hardly interesting to probably most of you, but just to tell you, whenever you have things that you want to bring to council, which many of you do, it will be much, much clearer. The updated classification, we took things like, for example, apart from a lot of the uses are very ancient, things like daycare were in commerce. For us, daycare should be in the public category because whether they're private or public, they're a community amenity, and we wanted them considered that. So things like that. So now I'm going to talk about the objectives of this bylaw. Mostly, the first thing is to allow more flexibility and mixed use. So one of the goals in this whole process is to help the residents live their lives in their homes in a way that suits them as them and their families evolve, but which doesn't basically irritate their neighbors. So we have provisions allowing for soft densification, for example, things like legalizing granny flats, additional dwellings, integrated projects. We have new provisions related to home-based businesses too. with parameters. And interestingly, the parameters come directly from the public consultations. They're very, very specific, and there's things governing them, but since if you look at a Google map now, you can see all the home-based businesses as it stands, many of them may be legalized, but within these framework. We tried to simplify the heights so people who need extensions can build them in a way that actually works and doesn't require minor exemptions. Or ends up resulting in truncated roof lines. If you see all over Côte Saint-Luc, you'll see almost points where they're cut off at the top. That's because we have a symmetry, what's called a symmetry of heights, which means that if you have a percentage greater than the home, 25%, you can't build more than that. So if you're in a bungalow, 25% more than that does not actually equal a floor. So you can't build your extension. So we fixed this so that you can do what you need to do in your home, but it still fits in with the neighborhood. We also had revisions related to temporary car shelters, making them citywide and adding specifications about shared driveways. We created a framework for resilience. We have new provisions related to tree planting and their protection, provisions for greening and reducing heat islands. There are standards for parking lots and landscaping we've never had before, but which other cities have had for many years. We've added provisions for developers related to waste management and for reducing the urban heat island. One of the other goals is to reduce the dependency on what's called auto solo. We are not Montreal, we understand that, but we still have at least ways to encourage other mobility. So for example, we've reduced parking ratios across the city. These affect all homes and buildings. So before this is enacted or currently, we force people and developers to create a certain number of parking spaces based on bedrooms, regardless of whether they're needed. These minimums have all been reduced. Developers, of course, need to provide parking, but far fewer than they had to before. The more parking spaces you allow, the more cars you attract, and we know how much traffic is an important issue for our residents. The parking in the new developments will also mostly be underground. We'll also require all of Côte Saint-Luc.
Sorry.
Across the board, and
Sorry,
please.
if I may, just on a point of order, just if I may clarify for the residents in the audience. So Tanya will finish her presentation. Then, as the mayor mentioned, then our director of finance will say a few words. Then Pascalie Tanguay, the city clerk, and then there'll be time for questions. So we ask you to please allow Ms. Abramovich to finish her presentation, and the questions, you will have plenty of time for the questions, we promise.
Yes, but this applies even to single-family dwellings. People who add an extension who have a bedroom, right now we make you add parking spaces or ask for a minor exemption. So it applies across the board. We've also added provisions for more bike infrastructure. We have new provisions for sustainable mobility like car sharing and electric vehicles also. Furthermore, to encourage and help grow certain kinds of businesses we want to see, we have special provisions for terraces, outdoor commercial pop-ups. We've made setbacks also to encourage interest in these areas. We've also modified the signage rules. Now I want to talk about, still in zoning, we're still in the zoning bylaw, targeted development areas. So we have several targeted development areas in Côte Saint-Luc. And what this means is that the city believes that these areas have more potential than their current use, and so has upzoned accordingly. This does not mean that there are developers waiting in the wings to start a project. In some cases, such as the 3 large shopping malls, this is the case, but not on others. For example, in Lower Westminster. So for the targeted development areas, we will have certain features in common. I'll just tell you what the targeted development areas are. So there's Quartier Cavendish, De Carry Square, Côte Saint-Luc Shopping Centre. There's the Westminster corridor top to bottom, obviously not all the way along because people live there, but certainly the lower part and a little bit in the middle and the upper part, and also Caldwell and Kildare. So for all these targeted development areas, there's certain features they have in common. So for example, all of them will be most likely mixed use. Many of you travel, you all know what makes for great neighborhoods, why you like visiting places, and encourages walking. The residential supports the commercial below, there's life on the street, and the zoning bylaw makes all this possible. We will for sure be increasing the density, but not in an abrupt way like we have now. So now what Côte Saint-Luc has is 20-story building, 2-story single-family dwelling, and there's no gradual transition. So heights will generally increase towards the center of any of these developments or on the edge, depending on what the geography is. We're also requiring graduated heights. So for example, when you're on the ground, if there's under 8 stories, you can have an 8-story building. But as soon as you go higher than 8, you have to have a podium. What this means is, if anyone's been to Vancouver, they have podiums everywhere, is that when you're on the street, and I've had images, I've attached images of what it looks like, when you're on the street, it feels like you're only seeing, let's say, 3 stories, and there's sort of a building behind it, but it doesn't loom over you like either the buildings here or like downtown or anything like that. It really feels more cozy as a pedestrian. It's important to note that we have to increase the density in certain areas. The CMM's new PMAD, which I mentioned earlier, for areas like Décarie Square, which is within 1 kilometer of a metro station, we're required to have a density of 260 dwellings per hectare, and it's currently at 80, which is quite a lot. If we want a train station at Côte Saint-Luc Shopping Center, which is definitely one of our objectives, we need to have 120 dwelling units per hectare. Right now it's at 60. I just want to clarify something for everybody, because I know, I'm sure that many of you have concerns over, how and when the redevelopments, particularly of the 3 malls, will occur. Like, oh God, you pass it tonight, shovel in the ground tomorrow kind of thing. No. I want to reiterate very, very clearly, number 1, there are no projects on the table for any of those sites. There is a whole redevelopment process that must be gone through first. And here you can see a very high level. I really simplified it, but there is all this to say, no shovel in the ground tomorrow. So I'll just go through this flow chart a little bit. So after the bylaws get adopted, developers will take the framework that we've set out tonight, analyze it with their professionals in the domain to interpret it, and create their proposed plans or adapt their previous visions to the framework that we are putting forward tonight. Then they approach the city for informal feedback. Nothing can move forward until the bylaws come into force. They're not in force as of tonight. Even if they're adopted, that's not how it works. The second bubble, negotiations begin with the city and developers. So this is where the developers will start a process for approvals for subdivision, PIIA, demolition. The city has its vision of what it wants to see from these developments, and I'll give you an example, a developed park. So instead of getting empty grass, we want, the swing set there. And these kinds of things all make it into the developer agreement, when roads get seeded and things like that. So those have to be negotiated. Then the next phase is subdivision. Subdivision and also phasing. There's no large development that will all take place at once. So a subdivision plan has to be approved. That is the creation of different lots. And it has to be approved by the Planning Advisory Committee and then Council. After that, then the developer can create new lots and then request a demolition permit if demolition is required. But to do that, they need a replacement project, which also needs to go through the PAC process. So in the 4th stage, building proposals are required to follow that process as well. So any building that would get built has to literally go through PAC, and that could take a while depending on how well they follow our PIIA bylaw, and then it gets approved, and then we have a sign on the site that says, look, this is coming here, and all these approvals are, of course, at public meetings. Then once all the approvals are obtained, developers would need to get a building permit from the city with all its requirements, and we'll talk about the permits bylaw, and the construction of the first phase can begin. And then for every other phase following that phase, they have to repeat 4 and 5. And then after all that, then there'd be landscaping and public spaces. So there's no, wham, there's development. That's not how it works. So now I'm going to move on to the draft subdivision bylaw 2636. The draft subdivision bylaw will replace the current subdivision bylaw 2089, which is also outdated. Les principaux objectifs et changements sont de supprimer les irritants dans le règlement actuel et de simplifier et faciliter la compréhension des normes et dispositions. There's a theme going here. It's all towards simplification and also removing things that, annoy people or don't work. Nous avons des nouvelles dispositions visant à assurer la conformité avec le plan d'agglomération and we've added visuals for increased understanding and consistency of application. And I just put on the screen one example of the visuals. It's like how you take measurements, right? We didn't have this in our current bylaw, so people do different things, and so this clarifies that. Next, we move on to the draft SPAIP bylaw 2638. This bylaw will help residents and their professionals develop construction projects that go hand in hand with the city's renewed vision, goals, and objectives. And when I say residents, I mean this is, we get, for example, for home extensions and things like that, this is a constant stream of them in Côte Saint-Luc. This applies to that also. It will be a fundamental tool for the Planning Advisory Committee to evaluate projects based on general and specific criteria that may vary based on the area, building typology, use, and more. So a little bit about this bylaw, and then I'll show you what it looks like. So first of all, this whole thing was in Chapter 14 of the zoning bylaw, nowhere near as full or as rich as this bylaw will be. This incorporates the architectural guidelines that were not part of the bylaw before. We developed these in recent years. They were not into the bylaw, and now they will be part of the bylaw. This also establishes objectives and criteria for multifamily and mixed-use buildings, for landscaping, for signage, for commercial and public buildings, for the PPU area that I showed you before in the town center, for DeCarry Square, Côte Saint-Luc Shopping Center. It also establishes objectives and criteria for pre-1940 buildings. So just to give you an example of how, just to make clarity. So on the left, which you probably can't see, basically it says, to submit an application to the Planning Advisory Committee, provide complete studies and information necessary. That's what it tells you. The one on the right, even though you can't see the details of it, it tells you if you have this, you need this, 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 and this, so that when you come, you can have faster, I want to say, moving down in the process. There's a lot of visual explanations, all sorts of things. Do this, don't do this. It has criteria, so when PAC looks at the projects, check, 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 check. It's very, very clear. Now we're going to talk about permits and certificates. Draft permits and certificates bylaw is a new bylaw that will help residents navigate the different types of work activities that may require a permit or certificate from the city's urban planning department. Permit information used to be, or it currently lives, I guess, in the construction bylaw. So again, this bylaw removes irritants. It has tables for better understanding, and there's an example of this table. So basically, there's a table. Do I need a permit for doing my bathroom, doing my floors? Check, yes, no, yes, no. So you can sort it out. And then what do I need to bring to city if I do this? And then it tells you what it is. So it's all very clear. And it outlines the steps that have to be followed in the process and lists the required documents. Now we have the draft building bylaw. So there's just a lot of meat here. The draft building bylaw will replace the current construction zoning bylaw 2593, bringing it up to speed with the best practices as well as updated norms related to construction. The main objectives and changes for this bylaw are to remove irritants, yet again, simplify the provisions so they are more easily understood and interpreted, and update the norms to reflect the latest changes in, for example, the zoning bylaw. That's why this one's here. Now we move on to a new bylaw. This new bylaw, the draft bylaw 2631, to improve the supply of affordable, social, and family housing. This new bylaw aims to ensure that there continues to be an adequate supply of affordable social and family housing to supplement the existing stock in Côte Saint-Luc, given the increasing demand and difficulty accessing affordable housing. In creating this bylaw, we worked with the housing groups that already operate in Côte Saint-Luc, like Kahila, St. Patrick's Square, to help us come up with what would allow for a viable project. This is the first bylaw of its kind in Côte Saint-Luc. It is not replacing anything, it is brand new. This bylaw will be subject to the issuance of building permits to the conclusion of an agreement between the city and developers of certain larger residential projects. So the 3 malls all need to have this. This is applied to them. This agreement will require that a parcel of land be reserved for the purpose of building an affordable housing project. 2631 also requires that 10% of units of all multifamily housing, wherever it is in Côte Saint-Luc, has to be for family housing, which is defined as 3 bedrooms or more and is a certain floor area that is also required. Finally, we have the draft demolition bylaw 2644, which will replace the current demolition bylaw 2345. Les principaux objectifs et changements apportés par ce règlement sont les suivants. mise en conformité avec la nouvelle législation provinciale relative au patrimoine bâti. This is the pre-1940 homes. Supprimer les irritants du règlement actuel and simplifying the provisions so they are more easily understood and interpreted. So what is next? So first of all, I encourage everyone to regularly check the Engage website, côte-saint-luc.org/engage, www.côte-saint-luc.org/contribuer. This is the place where you see the latest news, where everything is. This is where you can view past consultations if you've missed them. Read every report we've put out. Find tonight's documents tomorrow when you feel like perusing them all. Look at FAQs and leave a comment. On the right, you can see there's a comment tab. You can see the timeline on the right. This is really the focal point for getting informed as residents of Côte Saint-Luc. Finally, what's next, and most importantly, is the official consultation, which is January 13th. I don't know if it's going to be in this room, potentially downstairs, but we'll see, I want to say, on crowd size. So we are coming to the end of a long journey together, and I want to thank all of you, our dear residents, for being so involved and engaged. This project started in 2022 with a year of pre-consultation activities. The information session, survey, workshop, focus groups, and other events provided clarity of aspiration, which fueled this whole project. We took all that you said, not just at these specific events, but in our experience with you over the years. We met with staff and community partners to give more feedback to even better understand your needs. I cannot tell you how much thought and care went into every single aspect, every document, every bylaw. While we had consultants supporting us, this labor was homegrown, done by a team of people who know this city inside and out and who have spent their careers dedicated to making it better. And I thank them, and they're sitting in the front row. So Charles and Melanie, thank you so much. We know that Côte Saint-Luc, we know what Côte Saint-Luc is to you. A village right next to the big city, special and apart, family-oriented, a place you want to grow old in, a place that cares about people and their well-being and their safety, a quiet suburb. I am proud to have presented this to you and hope you take a look for yourselves. I have faith that you will. I come from the library after all, and this is a community that reads and keeps itself informed. I hope to see you in January.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to call upon our Director of Finance and Treasurer, Angela Marino, who will give us some financial understanding of the present proposal.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So my name, like Mayor Brownstein mentioned, is Angela Marino. I'm the Director of Finance and IT and the City Treasurer. So I'll speak to you this evening a little bit about the 3 development projects that we are considering, and really just on the financial aspect of it. I won't talk about the master plan in general, it's more about redevelopment. So I wanted to share that over the last number of years, there's every 3 years, there's a new role that's deposited by the City of Montreal, and in the 2020-2022 valuation role, we saw a trend starting to develop for shopping malls, where the average home increased by 14.8%, while shopping malls only increased by 4.1%. So what that means is that the tax burden has to be transferred from the non-residential properties to residential properties. So that automatically increases the residential taxes because we have to make up the shortfall somehow. We saw was more evident with
Somebody says they can't hear. I'm not sure why. Darryl, there's some issues of hearing? No, but
Yep.
even here in the room, is the microphone not loud enough for the room?
Okay.
Maybe?
Okay, so this was more evident with the current roll. So the current roll covers the 2023, 24, and 25 years, where the average home in Côte Saint-Luc increased by 38.9%, where shopping malls actually went down in evaluation by 0.4%. So again, the tax burden has to be transferred from the non-residential properties to residential properties, automatically increasing the residential taxes. So it's clear that this trend will continue, this reduction in municipal taxes will continue in the future with regards to the shopping malls. So one way to really avoid having to keep transferring that tax burden from the non-residential to residential is redevelopment of the 3 shopping malls. So this will not only help reduce the tax burden, but will also minimize the financial tax rate increases in the future. Based on various scenarios that we were able to analyze to date, and like we said, we don't really have proposals to look at, but we have an idea of what could happen on these 3 sites. We're expecting that additional taxes will increase gradually over the development phase, but once the projects are completed, we're estimating to generate approximately $7.5 million to $9 million a year. And this is the net revenue that we keep in Côte Saint-Luc. Don't forget, for every tax dollar we collect, 45 cents goes to the City of Montreal to cover agglomeration, and 55 cents remains in Côte Saint-Luc. So I just wanted to mention, so this means that we can expect an additional $2.5 million to $3 million per site per year in tax revenues that remain in Côte Saint-Luc. So in addition to the tax revenues, we have to consider additional construction permits that we would be able to issue during the construction phase, and then of course the famous welcome taxes, transfer duties that we would be able to generate once the new residential properties are sold in the future. The last thing I want to mention is we really limit our construction capital projects over the years because we want to keep our debt service costs down. So debt service costs are capital and interest repayments that we have to pay every year. So because of that, in capital projects where I'm talking about road resurfacing, sidewalk reconstruction, lead service line replacements, and so on, we have fallen a little bit behind on these projects because of the fact that we're limiting the amount. So the extra tax revenues that are generated by the redevelopment will allow us to invest a greater amount on an annual basis in capital projects.
Now I'm not on. So I'll repeat that. During question period, for those who are listening online, you'll be able to ask questions to our staff who have been presenting. I wanted to thank Angelo. Angelo, we're very blessed to have him as our treasurer, and he's very modest in his approach, but all the treasurers and all the DGs from the demerged cities rely on Angelo and go to him for advice and guidance, and we're blessed. So, I mean, if he's talking numbers, it's good to understand them. That's why don't be shy to ask questions. He'll explain them well, and he'll give you a real clear picture of the financial side of this this proposal. So thank you, Angelo, and we're really thankful for all your input. Thank you. Now, this is more procedural, mais on va demander à Pascalie Tanguay de faire le procédure, d'expliquer ce qu'on a fait jusqu'à date et ce qu'on va faire dans l'avenir.
Merci. Pascalie Tanguay, directrice des services juridiques et greffière à la Ville de Côte Saint-Luc. Donc, ce qui a été fait avant la présentation, en fait, de tous ces règlements-là, Tania l'a bien expliqué tantôt. Je suis là un petit peu plus pour vous donner les jalons pour le futur. Donc, prochaine étape, c'est la consultation publique. Donc, the public consultation on January 13, it's the next step. After that, there will be a 4 days registry period, donc un registre de 4 jours, seulement pour le règlement de zonage, par contre. Et ça va être au mois de mars. Et ensuite de ça, s'il y a assez de signatures au registre, il y aura un référendum qui sera à quelque part en juin, un dimanche en juin. Puis ensuite, il y a l'entrée en vigueur des règlements.
Okay. All right, we're going to go to question period in a minute. I just want to say before we go to question, and as I said, Angelo, I want to come up in case they ask questions, finance, and they'll hear you better. The goal is to try to meet consensus. And I have to say that all the 8 councillors have worked very hard with staff for the leaders. They put in the big hours, but council have all been involved in supporting this project, and I have to say that all 8 councillors have been superb, and they all support the principles in general of the master plan. Of course, they may have certain concerns. We all do have certain concerns in different areas, particularly maybe in our districts. In their districts, 1 or 2 councillors may have certain concerns that would address their districts, but in principle, I think we do have a consensus that it's a very good plan. And I want to thank all 8 councillors for all their input and for supporting this plan and helping us move it forward, and staff for everything that you've done. It's not easy, but I'm asking you all tonight to be kind in your questions. I bring it back to the Wizard of Oz. You know, the Tin Man wanted a brain and they wanted a heart and they wanted courage. So we have to have brains and heart and courage and be kind to each other. That's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to be smart. We're trying to be nice and kind and come up with a way to be courageous and make the city better. So when you ask your questions, please do it in that manner. And I'm going to start with the first one.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say, Tammy at the back of the room has 3 copies in English, 3 copies in French, which are going to be circulated, and while during the question period, you can sort of look through them. And we're asking you not to take them out of the room, but they will be available at the library and with all the other documents that we're going to look at tonight. Thank you.
So we're supposed to, in a special council meeting, we're supposed to be at 30 minutes, so we're going to do our best. But like I said, after the debate and we pass the bylaws, we're going to have another question period, I think, as long as council agrees to it, because I need support in order to add on a question period. We need unanimous support, but I don't think anyone's going to oppose it. And we want everybody to have their opportunity to ask questions to the councilors after the debate. But the first question period shouldn't be that long, because you're going to be asking questions mostly to staff, hopefully to staff for that part. On the things that have been presented thus far. And then, like I said, we're going to go through the bylaws and council's going to debate them, and you're going to have another chance to ask the councilors and myself questions. So the first question goes to Jan Craig.
That's me.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I listened to you before, Mitchell, and you were talking about the elimination of barriers and having Côte Saint-Luc become a connected city, much like Green Avenue. And I think that the first thing that I would think it had to do is you're talking about the train station behind the Côte Saint-Luc shopping center. And I wondered at what stage that is right now and whether or not there would be a possibility of having another train station at the Namur Metro station.
Right. All these things are dreams and visions. Obviously, the dream is if it... Oh, Tanya, go ahead.
Well,
I'm going to let staff answer
Okay.
the questions. Fine.
So,
For this question period, go.
The position of Côte Saint-Luc is, of course, that we want both at exactly the locations you're talking about. We've been in talks with EXO more than once. It's feasible. They've done the studies. The ARTM has recently confirmed that it's not off the table. I know you'll hear in the news that, trains are having problems, not the line we're talking about, which is the Saint Jerome. And certainly Montreal wants the same thing we want, which is always very convenient. So we're waiting for the ARTM to put it in their plan. It hasn't been removed from the higher level plans, which is excellent. So is it going somewhere tomorrow? No, but it is still on the table, which frankly, I'll take it.
Yeah,
Here's a two-part question.
Okay.
And I've wondered if perhaps instead of the train now going to Montreal West and there's level crossings there, if instead some of the time, there's got to be some trains that go to Montreal West, but the rest of the time the train could go back and forth from Lachine through Côte Saint-Luc, and then to Park Avenue and Jean Talon. And I wondered if that's a possibility. I don't know about the physics of trains and stuff, but it seems to me that would be a great idea to have, like Valérie wants, is that pink line that goes from Lachine to Montreal North.
So two things. So one, the train itself, like the train, it goes on the trajectory it goes on, which is from Saint Jerome through Chabanel to Montreal West downtown.
But
So
instead of that, if it went to Lachine.
No.
Okay,
Let
sorry.
me answer. I'm answering you.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
answering you in a more delicious way than you even know. So basically, that is the train. We are also involved, because our fingers are everywhere all over the place in Côte Saint-Luc, in tramway discussions, right? And we are working with Professor Lefebvre, François Lefebvre, I think it is, Dita,
I know
and the
him,
tramway group in Lachine to try to get the tramway, which will go from Lachine all through Cavendish, right? The goal is to have the tramway go all the way from Lachine through Cavendish all the way up to Saint Laurent along Cavendish. So the connection, and we told them, like, even if don't hold your breath for Cavendish, but please connect us with the Southwest. So it would be a tramway, not a train. But still,
we have a lot of questions,
that
though,
kind of transport.
and we're trying to do it in 30 minutes so we can go on to the more exciting part of the evening.
Well, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. It's all exciting, but I know it's going to get maybe even more exciting, although polite. Okay, Margaret, let me get the name, Zippe, I think? Margaret Zippé.
I have two questions, if you'll bear
Go
with
ahead.
me. Okay, I've been reading a lot, and I know the federal government is promoting a lot of this through Canada, through something called the Green Municipal Fund and the New Natural Infrastructure Fund. Now, is the City of Côte Saint-Luc at this time receiving any financial incentives to move in this direction?
Tanya?
That is not one I can answer.
But I want to answer that because I just got an email today from Lambropoulos, who's the MP for our neighboring district. And they're in fact promoting the infrastructure program, and it should be very interesting for us, especially for the social and affordable housing, because the infrastructure program is basically there in order to complement any social and affordable housing. So, as a matter of fact, I think we're going to definitely.
But
to go
have
for
you
that.
received any monies at this point?
No, we
Okay.
can't receive it
Okay.
yet. We have to submit plans and
There's a meeting on Friday,
proposals,
Friday
and et
morning.
cetera. Is there a meeting on
Okay.
Friday morning? Oh,
My
great.
question number two, okay. Over at the Cavendish Mall this afternoon, I learned about the meeting because one of the store owners showed me advertising, which showed a new picture of the Cavendish Mall with simply the tower, and perhaps the businesses under it, and it was minus the movie theater, Dollarama, and the other parts. So it kind of,
Tanya,
people
it's
are
not right.
talking too, and they're
Tanya-
upset if that would happen.
No,
I've
it's-
never seen
Tanya?
that.
Oh.
I've never seen that in my life.
I saw it myself today.
It's not,
Yeah.
whatever it is, it's a stylized thing.
Okay,
The mall development would be full of all sorts of things, not one building.
Okay, and you
Certainly.
won't
And we
give
wouldn't
up,
want to
like
lose the theater or the food stores. No,
Yeah, because it's so
IGA.
important too that the elderly people have a place for coffee
Yes.
and congregating, and the children can use the equipment. It's
100%.
so important not to lose that.
Absolutely, that's never going to go.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Okay. Francis Block. No question yet? Okay. Sharon Friedman. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Bonsoir. Where's the financial man?
He's right in the front now. We brought him
Right
so
there.
you hear him right. He's the man.
Money. You said shopping centers were losing 31% as compared to property. I find it strange. I love the IGA in Côte Saint-Luc Shopping Center. And I know, as a single person, I'm dropping $100, $150, quite often going shopping, the woman in front of me, $300, $600, 10 kids, another $1,000.
So let him answer.
So
Let
I
him
am
answer.
finding it strange. And winners, new restaurants are opening up into Carey Square.
Sharon, let him
The hairdresser.
answer.
I am finding this rather hard to find. I may find Cavendish down, but I find the IGA and the Côte Saint-Luc and the Carey Square. I don't know where that could be down 31%.
Anyways, let Angela
No,
Marino
that's
speak it
question
out.
number one.
Good.
Concerning your redevelopment, again, I have been here a million times asking, do you have the plans for DeCarry Square? And if so, what are they? Again, every single time I came, Dita kept saying, we have no plans. No plans. 3, when you talked, I hear you talking, this law, by-law, schmy-law, and half of us are not didn't understand it. I don't care. You didn't mention one word about Cavendish. We need the roads. District 1 wants the roads, needs them. We do not want most of the Carey Square torn apart. We want townhouses there, nice homes. We want to keep people in Côte Saint-Luc. So, and we need, finally, when are we going to get Cavendish? And I am prepared to pay more money in taxes for you to finally take some aggressive measures with the 4 mayors to get
Sharon,
Cavendish.
okay, Angela can answer the finance part. Tanya can answer the other part that's not finance, and then maybe if there's something to add, I'll add. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll try to answer the question, because we don't analyze what the revenues that are generated by the shopping mall. That's something that the evaluation department does for the City of Montreal. So they do the calculation for the municipal valuation. So all we see is what is the final result of the evaluation. If you have vacancies in the malls, if you see that revenues are down, obviously it's going to affect the evaluation of the property.
It's
So
the
we have
evaluation
seen-
that
it's
counts.
the municipal evaluation that I mentioned was down, not the actual revenues generated by the different stores in the mall.
So even if they're doing well, a particular store doesn't mean we as a city get taxes, because if the valuation goes down, we get less. Tanya?
Okay, so the DeCarry Square part, so no, we do not have a plan for DeCarry Square. They have a vision, which they showed at the open house, which now they have to take what they find from tonight's meeting, or more the documents, and they have to go and make a plan, and then they'll submit it. So
But they
even
have
the
not
meeting,
as
even
yet submitted
once it's
anything?
approved. Once the densities
yeah,
are
no, no,
approved,
but-
that's not
but-
tonight.
so, no.
Once the densities are approved theoretically in whatever, in February or whenever that is,
Yeah.
if it gets approved in the way that we're presenting it or in some other fashion, then they'd have to go to the drawing board and make plans. They can have any dream of their plans. So whatever they presented in the past means nothing, because there were no density requirements set out on the lot. So they couldn't make a plan. Now, if this gets approved or something gets approved in February, then they could start making plans if they want.
Well, they can think about it. Like, they
start
can look at
thinking
our
about it.
plans and start evaluating it, but ultimately, like,
they can't make
they
plans.
can't do anything until they look at what council has said, right? Like, whatever's in the zoning bylaw, they have to look at and say, oh, that's the height we're allowed. Like, that's what it is.
The
As-
area is also only zoned 4 stories high right now. That's it.
What's that?
It's nice townhouses, nice
Okay.
homes.
Oh, we got it. Thank
No
you for coming.
high-risers in that area without
There
Cavendish.
has to be, Sharon, we have to, and it's funny, I thought of you because I went to Italy this summer and I'm like, oh, this is Sharon's piazza. Basically, we have to zone it more because we are required to, because we are in 1 kilometer of Namur Metro. DeCarry Square is in that zone where you have to have 300, or it's 260 actually, units per hectare, which means you're not getting townhouses. It has to be more than townhouses. You must have it. We have to conform. So even if the will of council wasn't, which is not the case, but even if the will of council wasn't, we still have to have more density than you're talking about for DeCarry Square in particular. Now, as to Cavendish, where do you want me to go with Cavendish, Dita?
I mean, they're still.
Cavendish, we're going to keep on fighting, Sharon. But if you could help us do it better, I'll do anything you say,
I'll
because
pay
we want
taxes,
it.
build me the Cavendish
We want it.
extension.
We want it. We want it. Okay, Monique Assouline.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Firstly, side note, thank you for all the security and safety in the city since October 7. We feel it. I understand that this initiative will shape the future of our city, and as a lifelong resident of Côte Saint-Luc, I want to ensure that it is approached with the transparency and due diligence our community deserves. As you prepare to vote or make changes to the plan and bylaws, before implementing, I would like to raise some important considerations and concerns. Number one, how much has been spent? I narrowed down my whole thing to like 3 points, guys, so I'll be quick. How much has been spent on these hopes and dreams, as you say, if we don't even know if it will be implemented? Transparency, will all related documents such as feasibility studies, costs, impact studies on traffic, and detailed development plans be made public, and when? The community has a right to access these documents to fully understand how this plan will affect us individually in our districts. And by the way, the bylaw of rezoning and removing parking spots in new developments doesn't stop the cars from coming. They'll just find another spot to park. So it won't remove the traffic. I work all around the city and I see this firsthand. In the master plan, so my third point is, are you taking into consideration our beloved seniors that make up a huge chunk of our citizens? I want to make sure that they are well taken care of, not only today, but in the next several years as they age and need extra care. I'm not here to oppose progress. I'm here to advocate for thoughtful, inclusive, and transparent decision-making. That's it. Thank
Those
you
are all
for your
good
time.
questions, and Tanya can answer them all, I think.
I'm going to
If you
answer
need help,
them.
I'll help you.
I'm going to answer them in reverse order.
Okay.
So I want to start with the seniors, because the seniors, this is one where, I mean, Okay, I've been working in Côte Saint-Luc 23 years. If it's not about the seniors, who else is it about, except for families? So basically, not only in the master plan, seniors are at every corner, right? So we require, for example, universal accessibility for all the new buildings. We require, like, every pedestrian thing is related to seniors who have trouble crossing the street. They can't even cross Cavendish now. We have issues with seniors who are still driving, who feel that they have to still drive because they want to maintain their independence, but they can't walk anywhere because how can you walk from Marc Chagall to across the mall when it's a giant parking lot and you don't feel safe? So every single thing we're doing, we're requiring, and you'll see when you, please, I encourage you to look at it, to have like the social spaces. We want to smash social isolation. That's one of our stated goals, because not only is it an issue in Côte Saint-Luc, 36% people live alone. So the due diligence has been there, I promise you, but seniors at the forefront of things. I mean, I'm also working on the Living Lab project, which is related to all sorts of other things related to seniors. So don't worry about that or them. They're covered. As far as transparency goes, well, all the documents we have are available online now. You can look. We haven't done those studies yet. So when we have them, when we have plans, like let's say the development proposal comes, it goes up on a sign right on the site. And however council decides to have consultations about it, that's up to them.
I'm not talking about those buildings that will potentially go up or the malls, but more the master plan that you have planned that has, what, 1,600 pages or whatever you said? Is
No, 1,600 pages is everything French and English.
But that's what I
Look at
mean.
the
So
back.
That's available. That's available.
It's been worked
online,
on.
and it's in the back of the room now.
No, it's okay. It's been worked on since 2022. Like, it's been 2 years, almost bordering on 3. How much has this cost the city of Côte Saint-Luc? Taxpayers. So, like, this is important, you know, information. Is it hundreds of thousands of dollars or is it $10,000?
The financial costs, we can definitely give you all the details of the costs. It's not a
Because,
secret.
you know, most of the councils here have been on council for like 20, 30 years. You know, we've all been around Côte Saint-Luc. We're talking about feasibility studies of having new coffee shops at the mall, when in the 80s and 90s it was amazing and it was working, but we've seen them close, open and close. So why do you really need a feasibility study? We have the life feasibility that we've like experienced ourselves over the last 10 years. We see it. We see the
We wouldn't
results.
do a feasibility study about
We
market.
didn't do feasibility studies about that. We're saying if we increase density on the 3 sites and we put people and they move into those houses, townhouses, apartments, condos, seniors' homes, then they're going to use the services below. And if right now, that's the goal, right? Right now, it's not so convenient. So what we see in other places that succeed is they have successful business at the bottom with people living on the top.
Yeah, but it's like we need to open Cavendish for that.
Well, that'll be part of the deal. We hope so. That's in the plan.
That's
It's definitely
it?
in the plan. We want Cavendish.
But like the important, with the last one with the zoning and the new buildings that have a limited amount of parking spots, I don't think it's a good idea to limit the parking spots because if you think that it's going to reduce the amount of traffic, it won't. People still have their cars. We don't have enough transport in the city. It's not reliable. My kids go to university by bus. Sometimes the buses don't show up. And so people do need their cars. And if they don't park underground because the parking spots are not there, they're going to park on the streets. They will. So just think about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can answer your question about what was spent before you go off.
Sure. Go for it. We have all the details. We have our finance guy.
So actually, I worked on the document today, so we do have the information. So the public consultation phase that started in 2022 and ended early in 2023 was 171,000. And then the revisions to the master plan documents, which was a second contract that started in 2023 and still being worked on right now, is 278,000.
How much?
278,000.
I think one thing that maybe the public isn't aware of is how much studies of any and all kinds cost. Like when we do studies for water or we do studies for traffic, we're not talking $5,000. They're always in the tens or
These are,
hundreds.
of course, 3 years of work.
Yeah. Thank you.
You got the numbers. The next one is Ayala. One thing you can't say about this council, we're very transparent. You got the numbers. Ayala.
Hi. Okay, my question is, I'm asking on behalf of a friend, a longtime Côte Saint-Luc resident, been here longer than me, who is a realtor, and has mentioned to me that when Montreal has implemented its city plan, somewhere between 2012 to 2017, I think, they had to expropriate a whole host of properties just to implement their development of buildings. What will be the case for Côte Saint-Luc? Are you looking to expropriate some properties to, well,
Anyway, Tanya,
don't act all shocked.
No, Tanya,
It's a fair, come on, Dita, it's a fair question. We need to know if there will be properties expropriated. If you don't ask, you don't get your answer.
Very good. No.
So first of all, Montreal expropriated properties to build the parks. They do it for social housing. That's Montreal.
That was in the Sud-West, by the way. I
Yes,
forgot to mention that part.
We are not expropriating land in the social and affordable housing bylaw. They have to temporarily cede land, which we will transfer to the organizations. But apart from that, there's no plan to expropriate any land at all.
Okay. All right. The other thing is Cavendish Extension. A lot has changed in the past year. The climate is very different in the world, and a lot of people have had a change of heart. It's not just me, it's a lot of others. So contrary to what somebody else said here before, I think that we really, really need to revisit the whole question about the Cavendish Extension. I think you'd be surprised to, maybe not surprised to find out that, that a lot of us don't really want to approach the Cavendish Extension. We like the gated community. And we've had an uptick in, we've seen an uptick in thefts, car thefts, house thefts, since COVID times, since pandemic. So if people are having a change of heart, what do you do now? Because with all these developments, I'm not saying that not to have the developments and whatnot, but we need to consider everything. We need to consider, I was one of the people who answered the survey. But we need to really focus and hone in on a lot more residents' responses, and maybe just on the Cavendish Extension, in order to better direct and guide you on the, you know, the whole development of the three projects, because you need we're going to be bottlenecked, but at the same time, it's like you want to create you want to help create one situation for the betterment of all, but it could create a whole host of other problems because we're on the fence about the Cavendish Extension.
That's good. No, we respect that opinion, and the Cavendish Extension might never happen, or it could just be a tramway, or it could be a tramway and bikes, or it could be a tramway with one lane for cars. Who knows yet, but we're so far away from it, I wouldn't worry about it yet, but those are the different possibilities. Who knows?
Okay, so could I just say something? If we're so far away from that, and yet we're coming, I don't know how far away we are from the development of buildings, we really need to tackle those two simultaneously. I did mention to Dita that I think that maybe exiting out of Côte Saint-Luc, if we're going in the direction of Cavendish Extension, if it's going to happen, and it's going to happen, the wheels are in motion down the road, then maybe exiting out of Côte Saint-Luc might be interesting, but entering Côte Saint-Luc, I don't think is something desirable for the Côte Saint-Luc residents to allow everybody ad hoc to enter Côte Saint-Luc with the added advantage of a Cavendish Extension.
Okay. Do you have anything to add? No?
Just even in the surveys, it wasn't, you know, unanimous that everybody in Côte Saint-Luc wanted the Cavendish Extension. There were definitely people who were like, I don't want it. So it may be more now than it was then, but it still existed then.
Sorry, do we have the results of that polling?
Look inside the documents.
Okay.
It's there.
They're online.
Online? Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Mita Mashal.
Hi, good evening. I'm impressed by all the work that's gone into the documents that you prepared. So I have two comments, questions. One is, I find in Côte Saint-Luc there's not much green space, walking paths in a green space. And I don't know whether your urban plan will account for that, because that's a real lack. I mean, I used to be able to go to Mount Royal. I'm sorry, I cannot walk up that hill. Very, very, very infrequent that I can go. There's no parking at Mount Royal anymore. Okay, so that's one question. The other thing is, right now I'm really fortunate I can walk to the Côte Saint-Luc Shopping Center and Cavendish Mall, 15 minutes. I'm in good health. I'm a senior. I'm aging. I foresee that I'll be using my car more and more. A lot of the planning that you have for your redevelopment of these malls is for underground parking. I'm not a huge fan of underground parking. What I find with underground parking is that the spaces are often very narrow, not always well lit. The underground parking in the MUHC, for example, is a disaster, and I get lost every time. I refuse to go there by myself.
Disaster.
Yeah, of course, it is a disaster. My son, who was ill, had to help me find, anyway, never mind. So if you're planning underground parking, larger spaces, well-lit, security, that's an issue for seniors. So I don't know if you want to say something about that.
I can answer both of those. So in answer to your first question, the availability of green and the desire to link the green spaces. So for example, and it's in there, it's all in there. If you look at the plan or you look at it online or you look at it here, the greening of the city, not just in terms of the tree canopy, but also connecting all the different green spaces. So we have like this side of town, so let's say the eastern side of town where we are now, has many more green spaces than the western side of town, right? Where there's just big giant parks like Kerwin and Itzhak Ravine, but not little ones. So one of our goals is to make the walks and the connect the green spaces together to make green corridors that are pleasant and have increased tree canopy and increased street furniture to go with it. So that you can walk in pleasant and green. Like, we're trying to increase the green as much as possible. This is one of our stated goals, if you look at the plan. As to the underground parking, so people were definitely divided over underground parking, but because we know, bad underground parking, we've made sure that not only in the zoning bylaw that the widths are wide enough, that we require lighting, good wayfinding. We also made it so that, you know how you have like a column, so let's say here's the space, and there's a column that nudges into it, that the space has to be outside of all of columns, for example, because even as a human, I hate them, and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to hit my car. So we've actually made requirements for the underground parking garages with seniors in mind, because we for example, have gone to the Glen, and we circle, and it's like, where am I going? So we require all sorts of things for the underground parking to make them easier to navigate. Yes.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Merling. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
First council meeting.
Good to see
Hi,
you.
everyone. First of all, thank you all for the hard work that you're doing. I think that the master plan is exciting. I think that it's novel, it's concrete, and I just hope everyone realizes that it's a plan and it will continue to evolve, and you know, as time progresses, things change, and it's an ongoing process. So thank you. My question is two specific questions pertaining to public safety. Does the master plan include any concept or ideas for public safety, specifically EMS, the public safety station? Is there anything that's going to happen with our poor old building
Right.
on Côte Saint-Luc Road?
I'll just say that's why I gave an example, so I'm going to continue. I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but I just use that as an example. Right now, you're at the other side of town in the old building, and it's far from the main core of the senior population in Côte Saint-Luc that needs the service the most and needs the response the fastest. So the master plan puts it more in, well, right in the center of the city, closest to those individuals who would require potentially, if it's your mom or dad and you're they're in a, or you're an elderly yourself and you live in one of those condos or apartments in the central city and the station is 1 or 2 minutes away from you instead of 6 or 7, that's good. And you're going to be happy, even if maybe a neighbor might not be happy unless it's their mom that you saved. So that's why we think of putting, in the master plan, we think of putting it closer to the population that needs it. When is it going to get built? It's a dream, like the whole plan.
Right.
That requires federal, provincial funding, fundraising, but it's a goal.
Great. Happy to hear that, and I think it makes sense. The other question pertains to Living Lab and how that might affect EMS as a service as it's integrated into the plan.
The Living Lab?
It doesn't affect EMS. The way we've been having discussions, and we've certainly included Director Chateauvert like every step of the way. So basically, I don't know how much you know about the Living Lab project. I'll give a little. So in 2019, the city submitted, we won at least as finalist for the Smart Cities Challenge with Infrastructure Canada, and the city's project was the Village Initiative, which basically had seniors in their homes and they were sort of passively monitored, right? And so the Living Lab project took that with researchers and did it with actual monitoring. Like the first time it was just, you know, someone had a detector here and there, but this was like they actually went into a dashboard and it was showing it. So we had discussions with Eddie Afram, for example, of like how we could prevent things, but there's issues with EMSers because they have to be first responders at all times, right? So if they were monitoring, then they'd be in their brains obliged to go, and so we couldn't include EMS actual volunteers because of our both our arrangement with Urgence Santé and also the fact that you cannot be a first responder if you are one, and you might go when you shouldn't be going, right? So in the whole vision of Living Lab and where we're taking it, we want to find such a way as to be able to continue on this vein and monitor and have it link up with EMS somehow, but we're like, there's no devised way because of the above constraints. Right. But it's the dream on some level.
Right. I think that the main concern among EMSers is perhaps that it'll increase the call volume unnecessarily, and I just want to make sure that that's at the forefront of the thought process as you go through the planning.
Well, we have one of the things about the Living Lab, sorry to go on about this, everybody, but it's super important. One of the things about the Living Lab that we learned is that you get a large call volume for things. People use 911 as, I want to say, a crutch for a lot of other things when they shouldn't be calling 911, right? Everything from I'm starving to a variety of things. So one of the goals of the whole Living Lab project is that other people respond to the non-urgent, non-nothings that help deal with these issues and also focus on prevention, right? That the thing with the monitoring is that it monitors and then there's AI that analyzes, have they changed their habits? Mm-hmm. So before they fall and make the 911 call, that all of a sudden there's weird things that would be flagged by the AI.
More proactive, less reactive.
Yeah. So
Great.
it should, in theory, reduce the call volume and make it the calls be like prio 0, prio
Great.
1.
Wow, you know your lingo, Tanya. Thanks.
I know, right?
Appreciate it.
Hello, Zev Koppel. I'm coming here tonight as a Board of Directors member for 6800 McDonald, Le Vicomte. And what I want to, first of all, I want to congratulate, by the way, all of you for great work done by the city. But my questions will represent more or less the questions that people are posing to me concerning the situation that is developing right now before our eyes. So the question that was posed by many people in different ways, how people that are most affected by the reorganization of the Carrier Square that live immediately in the vicinity, like Le Vicomte is, how they were solicited to participate in this process of consultation, or were they at all
So District 1 residents are as much residents of Côte Saint-Luc as every other resident. So all the consultation activities we had, which certainly included people who live in the north of Hampstead area, like that, we absolutely had attendance. So we invited all of Côte Saint-Luc to participate in all the information sessions, the open house, the survey, the, like, you name whatever we did, workshops, you can see all the results, but that included everyone in District 1, where you live. So,
I'm just conveying the sort of feelings that many of the residents have, because we literally live on the Carrier Square. And people are worried that they are going to be sort of bulldozed by the city and the developers into fait accompli. I'm just telling you the general feeling, and it's very prevalent. I think that we should address all this to give them a venue to express their fears. We have a lot of older citizens. They are afraid that they are going to be affected, first of all, by the tremendous increase in car activity, or we already have great problem on Vezina, as we all know. We sort of, it's hard to comprehend how increasing the density will leave the situation as is, which is really already terrible, or improve it. I understand that today I understand that they demand that the density must be increased because of the metro. At the same time, how can you increase the density if you are not going to improve the infrastructure that's supposed to work with the density that is required? So this is something that many people are very worried about. And living there, I can tell you that the problem of the whole street is already very substantial.
Sorry. Yeah, so for those who were listening online, sorry, I should just leave it on all the time. I'm sorry. The question was about having more of consultation for de Carry Square and the Vicomte. And the answer is that we would be happy to give a special consultation meeting. I'd be happy to come, I know Councillor Berkowitz and staff, to answer questions and get more input from people of the district. So maybe that would
one more
that would be
concern
helpful.
that I heard many times from different co-owners of the condo complex is many of them are older. They have chronic diseases that might affect them quite substantially by the dust and the noise that is going to be affecting, that is going to be part of the redevelopment. All those things have to be raised, and because the anxiety level is extremely high.
Okay.
So how we will know who will be coming to this?
Well, we'll work with your city councillor. We'll work with your city councillor, Oren Sabag, and he'll make sure that it happens, and we'll get the appropriate people there.
So maybe Didier will be in touch with me.
Dita will be there for sure. But
Okay.
Councillor Sabag will take the lead, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Zev, we got. The last question for this question period is Celine Billy.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
I am the current vice president of the Côte Saint-Luc Co-op Housing. There's just a few concerns that I have because our goal is to get more families in. We've been working on it. We have a lot more than before because the population, they're getting older and they're either moving out or making other arrangements. There's a park right across the street by St. Patrick's Square. Now, it was renovated before, and the children cannot use it. It's not a real park. People go there to hang out, they smoke, and with all the children that's coming in that we have already, they go all the way down to Merton Park, or they cross over and they go on Chester. Is there any way to
Yes.
implement that and
Yes.
make it maybe?
It's in the budget.
Okay,
We're going to redo the park.
like
It's in the budget. So before we do it, we're going to talk to you. That's the most important thing. We'll definitely, and I know that park is due, and I'm happy that you came, because
Thank you.
we'll talk to you about it. Yeah.
Okay, I have another
Very good
issue.
point.
At the present moment, we are having issues with dumping. Now, with construction going on various places, people are literally coming to our yard and dumping their garbage. And I see construction stuff, I see people from different areas, and
It's not a master plan issue, but but it's not a master plan issue. Okay, okay.
Sure, go ahead.
and it's becoming a problem because we are getting fined for it. So is there any way that we can put a sign or
Thank
something?
you, Celine, for coming, and your question is a valid one. I got an email as well about that.
Yes.
So the issue, and we will take it up with Public Works, is that the truck doesn't come all the way in.
No, they don't have to. They're right there at the corner.
Sorry, it's right there, and the people, because it's not taken properly, it accumulates garbage, and people just add more garbage from the surrounding area. So we're gonna
Exactly.
try
It's
and
strangers.
find
It's
a
not people who actually live
You
in
shouldn't
the
have
complex.
that issue. I'm bringing it up with Public Works to see how we can either find a way to come sooner or put some signage, whatever it is that we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Celine.
One last thing.
Yeah.
The crosswalk. The crosswalk is very dangerous in front of Côte Saint-Luc and Walkley, from where the 103 bus stop is. They basically made it diagonal so that it comes into the driveway. People don't realize that there's a light.
Every single year, we have an issue with the line painting in that area. And I bring it up with our... Sorry. No, I understand, but there's the line painting, but it's one of the problem is that we don't have any communication with the company doing the line painting that's going to allow us to let them know that this should be done this way. 1 year, they painted over the median. It's just, they just do whatever they want. I'm trying to manage it in a way that it falls within our line painting timing, but it's very difficult at this time, but we're aware of it as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, I know the question period is officially over for here, but if a former city councilor wants to speak, I'll give you that privilege because you're a former city councilor, but that's it. He's waving to me. Can I speak? Go ahead, Glenn Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations to Mayor, Council, staff. It's an extraordinary document, which I have yet to really crack open, and I know the amount of work that goes into this is incredible, so congratulations to everyone. There'll be a lot more questions to come. I had two questions, one of which I'm happy Steve Merling touched on, which is the future of public safety building. I hope it gets prioritized because it's long overdue for decades, I would say. The proximity of the station, as you said, compared to the heart of Côte Saint-Luc is getting more distant by virtue of congestion, traffic, the two underpasses, and more importantly is the modernization of 8100 Côte Saint-Luc Road, which, as you well know, we went there to library and to recreational facilities 60 years ago. So it's really well beyond its life expectancy and particularly not functional for public safety use. So I think that really needs to be a significant priority. My major question is with regard to what plans, vision, ideas, or change of zoning might exist with regard to CP Rail, which ultimately could be the largest redevelopment for the next 100 years with regard to residential, commercial, industrial, which would be literally decades of redevelopment and untold tens of millions in revenue. So how is that affected within the plan?
So if you go on page 74, if you have it in your hands, there's a section on the CPQC Railway Yard. So, of course, they're not moving anytime soon, but the City of Côte Saint-Luc makes its position very, very clear. They're adjacent to quiet residential neighborhoods, create noise, vibrations, unpleasant smells, pose a threat to safety and security as hazardous material are transported and handled there. The presence of the yard stifles the urban planning and economic development potential of Côte Saint-Luc and Montreal, limits access to and from the city, resulting in unnecessary traffic. So we foresee the transformation of this site in the long term into a habitable mixed-use environment. The site has to be integrated harmoniously with the city's current fabric, and we can't recreate what we have next to now with the CN yards, should it come. So it is addressed in it. We can't elaborate more than that because
But yeah, we've been fighting that for years, I know, with you. We'll continue the fight.
Are there any recent discussions with the various levels dealing with this?
To get them to move, not specifically recently, but it definitely has to continue to be revisited. Yeah.
they expand their operations.
Yeah, they continue to expand and say that's the best place for them. Okay, so that question period's over. We're going to move to item number 2, which would be, where's my paper? You gave me, oh yeah, there it is. I
But
have it.
There will
I got
be a
it.
second question.
There will be a second question period, but now we're going to go into the bylaws. Councilor Burko, bylaw 2641, item
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Point of order, yes.
Thank you. I'd like the proceeding of the tabling of the bylaw to be halted based on the fact that we have not had enough residents' input for the very important tabling of this bylaw.
Okay, so is that, I guess, for a motion for us to vote on? All in favor? No? Let's just move on and just, if you guys want to do it.
If I may, what Councillor Sabag is suggesting is actually counterintuitive. If we want people to consult,
Point of order, just a second.
Point
If
of
he's
order
putting a
again.
motion on the table, do you have a seconder? That's the first question. You're putting a motion on the table, you want us to vote for it?
Yeah, well, we need to vote on it. Do you have a seconder?
Yes.
Okay. Now we can have a discussion.
Now you can have a debate. Go ahead.
so what I was going to say, Councillor Sabag's motion is counterintuitive. If we want people to consult on something, we need to deliver it to them. We need to table it so people have a chance to read it. People have a chance to look at it. If we say we're gonna table it, we're gonna delay tabling it because we don't want you to see it yet, to me we're saying we're not ready for you to see it. Right now, my opinion is we want residents to see it. We want them to look at it. We want their opinion. Is it a perfect document? No. It is a living document. Even tonight I looked at it and I found a few little typos here and there, and hopefully, I'm a teacher, so hopefully teachers out there will catch some of those typos so we can finalize it. But the point is, we want residents to read it. We want you to take the time to read it, look it over, give us that feedback so we can make the changes. So again, by delaying tabling it, we're basically robbing our residents of time to look at the document. So for that reason, I'll be voting against this motion.
Does anybody else wish to speak to the motion? No? Anybody? No?
So I think can I speak? Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Or do I?
Well, I think we're going to the vote.
Okay,
now.
perfect.
Okay, all in favor of the motion? We have 2. All against? We have 6. So it doesn't pass. Okay, so Councillor Burke, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, hang on, I just have to start on page 3. 3 or 5? 3.
It's item number 2, no? Oh, the page.
No.
Page 3.
I
Oh,
think
it's wrong.
page
then,
5.
yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, getting there. Okay, so, hang on. I hereby give notice of motion that the draft bylaw 2641 to be entitled Bylaw Revising the Planning Program of the City of Côte Saint-Luc is being presented for adoption. And I'm hereby mentioning the object and scope of the bylaw 2641 to be entitled Bylaw Revising the Planning Program of the City of Côte Saint-Luc. And then I will now table the draft bylaw number 2641 to be entitled Bylaw Revising the Planning Program of the City of Côte Saint-Luc. And I believe that has been presented. Do I need a seconder? For the motion? Oh, okay. So here's the motion then. I'm now going to read the motion. I'm going to read the motion. I haven't done it yet. Be it resolved that in conformity with the Act respecting land use planning and development, the Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby adopts the draft bylaw number 2641 entitled Bylaw Revising the Planning Program of the City of Côte Saint-Luc. That in conformity with Section 125 of the Act respecting land use planning and development, Council hereby sets the date of the public consultation meeting for January 13th, 2025 at a place to be determined by the city clerk.
Okay, moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Schuster. Any discussion?
Well, I guess the discussion's going to start now. I don't know who wants to go first, but...
Either myself or Councillor Sabag, I would guess.
Oh, okay. Well, you can, okay, but I think every councillor is going to want to speak to this, so...
Who would like to go first? Go ahead. Okay, Councillor Kajowski. Councillor Cohen.
Thank you,
Everybody's
Councillor
so
Kajowski.
quiet. Go ahead,
I think it's appropriate that there's two people here who have, and then everyone else can respond. First off, you know, I want to commend Tanya, Charles, the staff, Jonathan Schechter. They did a magnificent job. It's a work of art. It took many, many years to do. We've been working on this the entire mandate. We've been having long meetings about it. I was moving in the direction of voting in favor of putting it to consultation. But then, literally a matter of days ago, I learned that the master plan included the public safety station, which we do need, but that the public safety station would be placed in this vision at the corner of Park Place and the Avenue, right in a development of townhouses. And why I'm concerned is that we had talked about this in recent weeks. In fact, I had asked there to be a public resolution to this effect so that we could let the people know. I am not for that location. I'm completely against it. I don't think it's an appropriate place. The late Ruth Kovac had designated a park for that spot. She even named it. Residents have been asking me for a park there for 10 years. I was hoping we deliver it. So I'm completely against that location for a public safety station. I've made that very clear. But I'm appalled at the fact that this has been put into the master plan without any opportunity for me to consult with my residents living on Park Place, on Jubilee, on the Avenue, and people living on Cavendish who are right next to it. And yes, I know I'm going to hear the arguments. It's in a better location. It's going to benefit the community at large. Certainly my constituents on Marc Chagall and Ilan Ramon and Merrimack and Rembrandt will be thrilled with it, but I have to think of everybody. And so I haven't had a chance to really consult with my residents. They will be able to come on January 13th, but I think it was really inappropriate to drop this into the master plan without even warning, without me having a chance to do a proper consultation. I did have meetings with, we had meetings last week with city staff. We had meetings, I had a private meeting 2 weeks ago. This was never mentioned to me at all. So because of that, unfortunately, I have to vote against this. I also will say in general, because I'll probably repeat myself in the next matter, the information on what's going to happen with Cartier Cavendish. Yes, we know what they wanted. They gave us a presentation about 2 years ago, but we don't, what we didn't know, and what I didn't know until about 2 weeks ago, was what was the city's vision? What is the city's vision for Cartier Cavendish, and how will that be? How will that go forward? Who will benefit from it? And it impacts my district. It impacts Councillor Azarat's district, and to a certain extent, it'll impact Councillor Schuster's district. Again, I think that we have not, I would have liked to have had the information on what our vision was for Cartier Cavendish at least last summer, but not a couple of weeks before we come here tonight and make our first public meeting on it. So unfortunately, I can't support it, even though I think overall it's a magnificent plan.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Councillor Burku?
Yeah, okay. So, first of all, I want to make a big distinction, and it's important. It's not just a technicality, it's actually fundamental. We have a master plan, which is a vision document. Okay? Nowhere in the master plan does it say that the public security station is going to be at the corner of Cavendish and the Avenue. Nowhere. Nowhere in the master plan does it say how high the buildings are going to be in the Cavendish Mall. Nowhere in the master plan does it say what kind of entrance or exits we're going to have at DeCarry Square. It is a vision statement. If the councillors, Councillor Cohn or Councillor Sebag, we understand, have issues, it's with the zoning bylaw. And it's a fundamental distinction that has to be made here. It's not just a technicality. It's not just, oh, I'm voting against everything. No. If you really are concerned about the location of the public security station and you cannot vote for the zoning bylaw for that only reason, and that's another argument, fine. But it's not to vote against the master plan. I really think that's fundamental. Number two, the location of the public security station did not just happen overnight. Okay, now I'm going to the zoning bylaw. It didn't just happen overnight. Oh, we suddenly woke up last week and we decided that's where we're going to put it. This has been going on for the past year. And Councillor Sebag has come to us over the past year, a year ago, and said, it is important, we have to decide where to put the public security station. We need a new public security station. Whether it costs $5 million, $10 million, we're going to find the money, but right now we need to have a location. Okay. We hired a consultant, cost us over $20,000. I was quite reluctant because I said, why do we need a consultant to tell us where to put the public security station? Because we know our city better than any consultant. Fine. The consultant looked at locations that we suggested, the gardens, Ruth Kovac Park, Public Works they didn't look at, Veterans Park next door because, fine. And then the Avenue. And each one has its advantages and disadvantages. Nothing is perfect, right? So Ruth Kovac Park was eliminated. The gardens were eliminated because we didn't want to have another repeat of the whole Chabad fiasco that we had many, many years ago. We know how attached people are to the gardens. Then Veterans Park is a zone humide, a wetland. We don't have many in Côte Saint-Luc, but it is protected because that's the natural breathing, sort of the filter, the few green spaces that we have. These are protected and it's a wetland. So we had to eliminate that one. And it took a long time and many legal opinions back and forth. Finally, we looked at the Avenue across the street, which we know is a park because when we redeveloped the Cavendish Mall, they had to give the 10% parkland. So that is a challenge for us. We have to do a private member's bill. We have to go to Quebec. We have to ask them for permission, authorization to turn that space, which is a public space, into and allow us to put up the public security station. That is on page 1061 of the document, or page 7, it's zone 732, and it's called Parc Espace Vert, Infrastructures et Services d'Utilité, Institutions et Administration Publique. It doesn't necessarily mean if we rezone it to that the public security station is going to be there. All we're doing in the map is saying on number 732, which happens to be the corner of Cavendish Mall and the Avenue, these are the three uses we can have, P1, P2, P5B. So we're actually far from this, far, in this slow process, which is called urban planning, to actually fix the place of the public security station. But we are rezoning it in order to allow that to happen. Should we get the private members bill? Should we have the approval? Should we get the money to build, right? So to vote against the whole master plan, the entire shebang, because we put in a rezoning of Zone 732, and I'm happy to share, this map should be available, and I'm happy to share it with you, just because we have rezoned it to P1, which is park and green space, P2, infrastructure and public utility, and P5B, institution administration public. So that we can pave the road slowly to get the Veterans Park, Veterans Park, I'm sorry, God, I didn't mean it, to get the private members bill and to eventually get the financing so we can get the ball rolling, because that's what Councillor Sabag has been telling us from the beginning. We need to get the ball rolling, we need to find a location. It's not fixed. It's not even, not only is it not in the master plan, it's not even in the zoning bylaw. But to come here today and to say, that's why I'm voting against the master plan, I think is really disingenuous. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burku. Anybody else want to speak on this point? Okay. Oh, Councillor Erdely.
I'll speak in general for a moment. And what I'll say is this, and I shared this with my fellow councillors a few days ago. Every year we adopt the budget, and if I look at the last 18, 19 years, almost every year it's been unanimous. Now, does that mean we're all 100% and we agree with every single line in the budget? No, because we all may leave there thinking, oh, I wish, as Councillor Burku mentioned, there's a park in her district, she wants to, spending a bit more there. There's a road in my district that needs to be repaid, but maybe wasn't on the list this year. Extra money for flowers and so on. Each of us maybe leave and say, oh, well, maybe I could have gotten a bit better or whatnot. But generally, we all leave saying, okay, this makes sense for the city. This is in the best interest of the city, at least in the, for the budget we do year by year. But of course, we do 3 or 5 year plans for capital projects. What I would say for the master plan, my feeling is very similar. We may not all leave, and I'm not sure if I want to get into the public security station. I'll pause on that one for a moment. But yes, there may be 1 or 2 things we agree and 1 or 2 things we don't, but I think overall, hopefully we can all agree that this plan is something we need. And, I'll just mention a few points. The malls, for example. People don't go to the malls the way they used to in the past. I hate to say it, but that is the reality. In every one of our homes, or many of our homes, I should say, people are ordering things on Amazon. People are ordering things online. People don't go shopping the way they used to. My wife was ordering something online. She ordered 5 different outfits in different sizes and kept 3 of them, returned 2 of them. Hopefully she's not watching this. But the point is, that's how people do it. She didn't go to a store. She could have gone to a store and tried on. Instead, she ordered a bunch of different ones and kept the ones and returned the rest. That's what people are doing nowadays. So in terms of the malls, we have to adapt. If you look around the city of Montreal, I think of on Côte Saint-Luc Road in Girouard, I think of Lucerne Shopping Center, I think of Walderton Shopping Center. The malls are going into a mixed-use development, meaning there's residential and institutional and commercial. And, there still will be the need for the IGAs and the Pharmaprix and the Jean Coutu and the dollar store. There'll still be a need for those core stores, but we'll have the residential in there as well. And I think it'll bring new customers, it'll bring new clients, and the hope is that we have that walkable city where people can get to the store within 5 minutes or 10 minutes walk. In terms of the train stations, yes, we want more public transit. I can tell you I have 2 children who are taking public transit every day, and maybe they're not, I think it was Ms. Assolini mentioned, maybe they're not 100% satisfied, but they figured it out. And I think if we can get more public transit in Côte Saint-Luc, it would only benefit our children, ourselves, and our society in general. And I'm hoping to get at least 1, and hopefully we can get the 2nd train station in Côte Saint-Luc. I think that would be an amazing development. In terms of things like Westminster, the Westminster corridor needs some updating. This is something we need. I drive through some of the properties in my district, and I won't mention specific ones, but I'm upset. I'm disappointed, and as our Director of Urban Planning know, our Director of Public Safety know, I'm the one calling them saying, let's go find them, because they're not maintaining their buildings properly. We want to make sure the landlords maintain. We want to make sure that the housing stock is nice. My parents live in an apartment in Côte Saint-Luc. I want to make sure their apartment is well maintained, that they are able to get around as they age as well. In terms of the financial side, I won't repeat all the points that our Director, Angela Marino, our Treasurer, stated earlier, but just to give some rough numbers. So yes, we paid significantly for this master plan, and we paid a lot of consultants, but I believe it was worth it in that if we generate, and we estimate that the city will generate about $7.5 to $9 million per year. So let's just think about that for a moment. Okay, that's about 10% of all our tax dollars that we raise in a year. So that means an extra $9 million for roads, for sidewalks, for pipes. Right now in Côte Saint-Luc, we have about 2,000 homes that have lead service lines. These go back to pre-1975, pre-1970. We are working on it, but we estimate it's going to cost about $40 million. $40 million. Okay, right now we spend about $6 million per year on all our capital projects. So, and we have to continue doing that. In terms of roads, the average road right now is repaved in Côte Saint-Luc about every 80 years or so, which is not sustainable. The average life of a road is maybe 50 years. So we need to be spending more money on roads. We need to spend more money on sidewalks. I have two elderly parents, both with walkers, and I see them maneuvering on Cavendish. I see them crossing, and their walkers get stuck in the ruts and the cracks in the road. We need to maintain our sidewalks. And again, with that extra money, we can do it. The Côte Saint-Luc underpass. The Côte Saint-Luc underpass is aging. We estimate, and this is something it'll be split with Montreal because it borders, we estimate it's going to cost about $30 million to renovate the Côte Saint-Luc underpass, of which about $15 million will be paid by Côte Saint-Luc. We need to do this because the walkway, and if you drive or walk on it, or drive by or walk on it, you see that the railing is becoming disconnected from the concrete. And God forbid, if we don't do it soon, someone could fall through there. We don't want that to happen, so we need to do it. We want LED streetlights. We've done about half the city. We've done about 1,000 streetlights, and we have still 1,000 to go. We want that to be done. We don't want to wait forever. So these, if I add these all up, what's the cost? It's roughly about $10 million per year. So think about it. With the extra revenue from these projects, we can cover that cost. We also, I should mention, and this is a historic fact, Côte Saint-Luc is generally has the second or third highest tax rate on the island of Montreal. This is not new. This is old news. Montreal West is always the highest. Second place, it's kind of Hampstead and Côte Saint-Luc. We kind of alternate. I was actually just checking with the treasurer. He's waiting to hear what the tax increase for Hampstead is for next year to see if we're in second or third. But we are among the highest in terms of the tax rate. And I think it was, if I may, I think it was Councillor Kajowski who said, okay, well, what if we try to borrow more money and maybe to do more projects? Well, the issue, of course, with borrowing more money is eventually you have to pay it back. So we're trying to not borrow so much because we want to keep our debt low. But the point is, again, we need extra funds because, as our Director and Treasurer, Angela Marino, mentioned, the real estate market is such that the price of homes is going up and the price of the malls, or the evaluation for the malls, is going down. 2 of the 3 malls, their evaluation actually went down. So meaning they are worth less money today than they were a few years ago. My home went up about 35%. The average home in Côte Saint-Luc went up about 39%, 38, 39. I was slightly below the average this time. Probably next time I'm sure I'll be above the average. And the new roll, for those who are interested, is coming out in about a year from now. So, and I imagine the trend will be the same. The homes will probably go up 10, 20, 30, 40%, and the malls probably will go down. So meaning more tax dollars will come from residents, less from the malls. So we need to adjust that. So all this to say, and I just want to finish by saying one more point. This is something we've been talking about, and I was looking at the list, and I'm just going to pull it up as I'm talking. We have done 2 virtual info sessions, 1 open house, an online survey, a public hearing, 4 interactive workshops, 6 consultations, 4 stakeholder meetings, and 4 focus groups. So we've had about 24, 25 different meetings over the last 2.5 years. So this is not something new. I attended many of those sessions. I have to admit, I didn't attend all of them, but I attended many of those, and I know many of the councillors did. And that's just to mention is just what we call the pre-consultation. So just imagine in the pre-consultation, we've had about 24, 25 sessions with residents. We have heard directly from about 2,400 residents. That is more than for any other consultation we've done in the last 18 years. So we are listening to feedback, and we're really just starting the actual consultation today. So we hope, again, to hear from more of you. Today is the first day. The document, again, is not perfect. It is a living document. It will go through some changes, but we're here to get your feedback. For today, I will be voting in favor because, again, the purpose of voting in favor today is we're not adopting and saying, okay, we're done. It's adopted. We can, we move on, go forward. Today, we're saying we're adopting it so we can begin the process of the actual consultation, so we can hear your voices. And of course, we'll continue in January, we'll continue in the spring. You'll have many opportunities, and I look forward to hearing the feedback from the residents. And so again, for those reasons, I will be voting in favor of the motion. Thank you.
Very well explained, especially on the financials. Thank you. Councillor Sabak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Before I start, I just want to point out something to Councillor Erdely. It's the second time you say it's 2,400 residents that have been reached out. There's a video that came out today from our communication department that says it's 1,500. So, no, but that's, I'm just putting it.
So I'll clarify the number. So it's 2,342. So maybe it's possible the survey was just 1,500 of those, but
I don't know. The video that was sent out today was 1,500.
I can't argue with a video I didn't see. I can only show you what's on my screen.
You didn't see it because it came out today.
So 2,342
All right.
residents.
Great.
Thank
My
you.
turn?
Yep.
Great. Thank you. So before I start, I do want to thank all the residents that came out today and the residents that are online. I think we have a great turnout online too. People want to hear what we have to say. I also want to thank some of the members of the Vicomte that are not only online, but also some of the board members. And I believe we have the chairperson, Mrs. May, that's also online listening to what's going on here today. I also want to take a moment to show my appreciation for the hard work and dedication from the staff that contributed to this vision of the city. We all care about, and we all care deeply about the city of Côte Saint-Luc. It's truly a very special place to live. We know that already. It's a great place to raise a family. I raised 3 kids myself here, and we all want to build a great future. We want this city to thrive. It's a city where families feel at home, where business need to succeed, and where life feels just a little bit easier at times. So what is this master plan supposed to be about? It's, as you heard Tanya today, it's a vision for the future of Côte Saint-Luc that works and should work for everybody. But here's the thing, as much as I believe in having a strong vision for our city, I don't think we're ready to move forward with this plan tonight. So when I talk tonight about delaying or halting, it's not because there's a specific point that I'm not in agreement with. I just think it's the wrong timing. And we voiced this in committee. I've said it many times. Councillor Cohen said it. We would have needed to have targeted district meetings before getting to this meeting here today. So the process, as I mentioned, leading up tonight has been complex and sometimes not as smooth as I would have hoped. The master plan has faced numerous delays after delays, and instead of giving us time to properly review it, or better yet, to consult residents in a meaningful way, we're rushing to the finish line. And that's a fact. Let me spell it out for you. We received the final version that you see in the back. We received that version a few days ago. Not weeks ago, days ago. And to make things worse, major changes like updates to the table of uses and norms were made as recently as 2 days ago. So, my fellow councillors will definitely argue with me tonight. They'll say that this has been the most extensive public consultation in the City of Côte Saint-Luc's history. But I have to ask, does this feel true to you today, tonight? How many of you knew about this master plan? How many of you understand how this will impact your neighborhoods? And here is a very specific question for everyone. Did you know that this plan would give 3 major malls the zoning they need to redevelop their land? And once that rezoning is done and takes effect, there will be there's not much the residents can do about it. So these are 3 questions you need to really ask yourself here tonight. Here's what I know. I went to the Vicomte for 2 days, about 7 hours each day. And I collected, and I'll deposit these signatures, I collected close to 150 signatures in 7 hours a day being present there and talking to residents. That's 150 signatures in one building of 204 units. That's 10% of the number of people that we say we've reached in that video today from our communication department. So, this tells me we didn't do enough to engage with residents, specifically in this different district that are going to be impacted the most by this master plan. Just last month, one councillor rushed to organize a district meeting to push this plan on her residents. Another rushed to City Hall last Saturday to make a video defending it. Sunday or Saturday? Sunday. Perfect. Saturday. Right after I spoke about it, why I think this process is being rushed. Here's the kicker. The city didn't put out a video or send a robocall to residents until today, the very day we're tabling this motion. If this is really about engaging residents, why then wait till the 11th hour? Why weren't these tools used weeks or months ago? They could have made a real difference, I believe. This is why I think rushing this plan is wrong. By making this decision today, we're making a decision that will shape the City of Côte Saint-Luc for generations to come. And I don't think the time is right. Some residents, we know, work very, very hard. They deal with gridlock traffic on Vizina, on Cavendish, on Haywood, on Fleet, and they might wake up one morning to find themselves living next to a redevelopment project that they might not even know about today. Some councillors might say it's about securing tax revenue, like my fellow councillor earlier just said, right? And it's about the future and getting these monies into the door and revenues into the door. But let's be honest, this can't be just about money. The irony is that that same councillor that's driving and pushing a mobility plan is spearheading this particular plan. A plan that is set to create some of the worst traffic gridlock on the island of Montreal. At the end of the day, it's not a numbers on spreadsheet that counts, it's about people. It's about their quality of life, their sense of community, and the trust that they have in us to be their representative. I want to be clear to all my councillors here today. I am not against the vision of this master plan. I understand its goals. I support the ideas of planning for a better future. But that future has to be built on trust, transparency, and real collaboration with the people of Côte Saint-Luc. If we can't provide that, I believe we need to hold off on tabling this tonight. And if people here insist on moving this forward, we need to remove the malls from the equation until we've done the work to ensure residents are fully informed and engaged and provide real solution to the chronic traffic problems. We owe it to the people of Côte Saint-Luc to get this right. Let's not rush the plan that will define Côte Saint-Luc for decades without making sure we've truly listened to the people that will be impacted the most. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag. Thank you, Councillor Sabag. And Councillor Sabag knows, and I've said it to him many, many times, I don't want to rush the plan. That's why when we hear people, when we go to the consultation on the 13th, I want to hear from you guys and see what you're all thinking, what you really feel. I mean, it's now you're hearing from us. It's fine. It's nice. But we want to hear from you guys. And that's what January 13th is about. And that's what everything that's happening until January 13th is about. And we will have another meeting at the VComp and anywhere else where people want. But I do not want to rush the plan. So thank you, Councillor Sabag.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may just rebut one or 2 points just to clarify. So first, Councillor Sabag has repeated a few times that this final document.
Yeah, do you want to give the other people chances who haven't spoken?
Okay.
Let's see. Let have other people speak, though. Why just keep your points? No. Everybody who wants to speak should speak once. Keep your notes, and then you can rebut when whatever. So who hasn't spoke yet?
I haven't, but I would like to hear first what Councillor
I'll let others speak.
We all love Stephen. You don't want to speak? Councillor Azarad's going to go.
Okay, go ahead.
Councillor Azarad's going to go.
I'll finish it off.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a little confused because I heard that you're for the vision, but you want to halt it. So you understand the vision or you don't understand the vision? I'm a little confused. So
Microphone might not be on.
Sorry, guys. You hear me better? Okay, so first, I'd like to thank the residents that took the time to listen, to give us their thoughts, because emails are sent, and a lot of residents, and include myself, until I became councillor, or I'd say a year before, I almost never paid attention to anything the city put out. And the lack of my involvement was why I was uninformed. And so the residents that did give their input, which was over a couple thousand between the surveys and the workshops and everything, those are the people I want to thank first, because thanks to them, the staff, who did an incredible job, were able to have a starting point. So once we have that starting point, and I'm not going to go through what Stephen said with all the different dates. We're talking about this started June 8th, 2022. We're in 2024, almost over. So this is not something that was sprung on anybody from yesterday. Yes, there's always going to be last-minute revisions to anything and everything anyone does in life. So we are going to have last-minute changes. They're going to come in, and sometimes they're impactful, sometimes they're less impactful. So that's fine. And then that's where we come in, and we'll have to see whether or not we agree or disagree with them. But to put one point and try to drag down an entire project, as Dita was mentioning, I just can't compute it. We're talking about thousands and thousands of hours of work here. So it cannot have been produced. If you just look at the document, it cannot have been produced in the last 24 or 72 hours. It took years and years of work of many people. So that's what people have to understand. And we're at the point today, we're at point 1. We haven't even had a consultation. We need this to pass in order to have a consultation. And that's why it makes no sense to delay it, because if we delay it, then you guys don't have anything to look at. And that's the whole point of this. You need to have something in your hands to review. Otherwise, it's not official. It's not official for you to review it. And everything that they've been working on is a culmination of what they've spoken to, whether it's developers, whether it's in workshops, whether it's directly with residents. This is how you'll know what we have. This doesn't mean we're passing it. Yes, are there things that were rushed? As I said, we all rush things sometimes, but 1,600 pages weren't rushed. There's always little changes that are going to take. So the other point I want to talk and add to in terms of the financials, the infrastructure of the city cannot continue to sustain itself with the tax base we have. We have built a city where if you have a certain amount of road pipes that need to be redone and you only have 150 homes on that street, it's the same 150 homes that are being serviced. They're not going to be able to afford to redo those streets every 30 or 40 years. By increasing the density, which, by the way, I know a lot of people are against, but as Tanya had mentioned, it's not always up to us. Some bylaws are being forced down on the city where density needs to be increased. By increasing that density, we're sharing the burden. And that's something that people have to understand. So there's a lot of little caveats that need to be looked at in order to be able to say whether something makes sense or not. Does it make sense for all of us? No. Do I like the fact that we might be moving the EMS station to where it is? No. It's closer to where I am right now. So trust me, it's not a convenience for me. But I have to look at the greater good of the city. So, and I ran on transparency. And I'll tell you something. As far as transparency, we can do more, and we are doing more. But this was quite transparent. Can we have done robocalls? Great idea. I didn't think of it. You thought of it. I didn't hear you mention it in the last few years. Can we have done more? Absolutely. Absolutely. But there's always more can be done. And if options are brought up, bring it up now. Robocalls can be sent out for the consultation on the 13th. And I urge more people to get everyone you know involved. This is what's going to inform us to be able to make a decision. Just before, you heard somebody say that they were against Cavendish. A year ago, a majority were for it. So there's going to be for and against on everything. We will have to take the majority of voices that we hear based on studies that we have. And the studies for traffic and all that need to be done once we have the proposed developments. We cannot do a traffic study if we don't have a proposed development without knowing how much density is going to be in there. And I'll give a simple example. The Equinox, when it was being built, they were yelling and screaming that the traffic study was phony and that there was going to be a lot more traffic. I don't see too many people complaining about the amount of traffic coming out of there, coming out in the morning or at night. So again, traffic studies are done. There's experts. If we don't want to listen to the experts, that's a different problem. I can't tell you what to do in that case. But if there are experts, we have to trust that they are giving us information based on data points. What's being proposed tonight is not what the builders want. This is what the professionals, both in the city and the ones hired, told us this would what was best for our city based on the numbers and the data that we have. So I don't want anybody to say this is what the builders want, this is what the developers want. Is it going to be good for them? I imagine it will, because if we don't make a vision that will increase the amount of development we have in our city, what are we looking to build? If we're looking to build just one big park, then of course, you can have a big park. But how are you going to pay for everything else? The infrastructure is not going to pay for itself. And it's also not going to be very inviting. We need to, if you read the plan, you'll see there's a lot of depth in there. There's a lot of thought put in the way the city is going to be built for seniors and for the young, so that when you're growing into the city, this city was not developed that way 50, 100 years ago. Those are the thoughts that were put into this process. So I definitely am voting for this, not because it's perfect, not because there's a lot of issues, there isn't issues with it. Yes, those are going to be worked through with the consultation process, with input from councillors that are for and against it, and we're all going to give our input based on what we hear from our residents. So consultations are needed, they'll be there. But I believe that we've done an incredible job. The city staff have done an incredible job in presenting us with a vision that I think meets most of the needs that the city wants, and hopefully will complete those most into all by the time we complete the draft and pass it to law. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Azarad. It's a pleasure hearing the way you speak. Well done, and I couldn't have said it better. So who wants to speak next? Councillor Schuster. Oh, okay, you were next. You just gave up your turn. Councillor Schuster or Kajowski?
Yes, thank you. All right, I have a lot of thoughts and analogies streaming through my head, and I'll try to be brief. First of all, I want to thank the staff, and we have been seeing a lot of this for years. We realize that 35,000 Côte Saint-Lucers have not seen the planning going into this and the visuals. And when I sat down with this document this week and read through, I won't say I read through 1,600 pages, but I read through quite a bit, and my text to staff was, this is a beautiful document, and this is a hopeful document for us. And I do believe that there is a collective vision. I won't pretend it's perfect because I don't believe in perfect. And I'll use the analogy of when my family decided on a home in Côte Saint-Luc, and we had looked for 2 years to find the home that would suit our family. And the home that we ended up with was on the tracks, and that was my number one thing of I do not ever want to be on the tracks. But everything else about the home we loved. So there's give and take, there's sacrifices. Sometimes it's, you know, we have to think of what our priorities are. Safety, comfort, you know, community, mobility, entertainment. When I think about our 3 malls, and I think about what they looked like in my youth, the 3 malls today make me sad, quite honestly. And when I traveled with my family this summer and I said, oh, let's go to a mall in New York State, in Vermont, in Massachusetts, and I realized those malls were looking kind of sad as well because our buying behavior has changed. You know, so people would rather walk in Montreal West and go into cute little shops rather than to go into an empty mall where it says Alloué in every other store. So these are things, and when we think about our behavior, where are we going every day? My family goes to eat on De Jockeys, on Saint Denis, on Sherbrooke Street, Monkland. We're not eating in restaurants in Côte Saint-Luc. We're seeing friends and family. When my daughter wants to get together with friends and go to mini-putt, I have to drive her to Saint Laurent. So I'm hoping that this vision of this city will have enough good in it that we will be able to accept the things that aren't perfect. And I also want to thank you, Councillor Sabag, for plugging my video. I am a communications professional, and I can tell you that a project that I've been working on for 5 years at McGill was a draft of a website where my staff and I were working on it, and we kept telling the other departments, it's beautiful, wait till you see it. But nobody could see it because it was a protected draft. So finally we decided it's going to go live, even though it's not perfect. And I had complaints, believe me, I had complaints, but I had to go live in order to share it with the people I was working with and to then fix it with them. And that is the kind of situation that I feel that we're in right now. We are now releasing this draft and letting people look at it and comment and meet with us. And as an aside, I am scheduling a virtual district meeting for District 8 residents on December 4th, and there will be publicity about that very shortly, I hope, because we want that dialogue. And we're so grateful for you for showing up and for having patience, even through things that might be boring or confusing. But thank you for having that dialogue with us, and we want that to continue. And we will find other ways and more ways and better ways to communicate with you, because that is what we need to do to move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster. I'm a lucky mayor. I don't know, you're all brilliant, including the ones that are opposed, and the way you speak. Thank you. Councillor Kujawski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so I'm not going to repeat what my fellow councillor said. I could not have said it any better than Councillor Azrad, who I've recently crowned the common sense councillor. Logical to a T, Lior, thank you, and Andy as well, and the rest of you. I appreciate all of you and all your words. I will, however, correct past mistakes I have made in not thanking people specifically for their hard work. Charles Senecal, Melanie Rothpan, especially Tanya Abramovich, who I have neglected to thank in the past. I am correcting that now, and thank you for all your hard work on this. It's really, really appreciated. Please thank as well all of the other urban planning staff who put time into this. I know it's been a slog, especially in the last month, where we haven't really seen any of you in the light of day and trapped inside your offices. So thank you for that. Like I said, I'm not going to repeat what everyone said. I would like to thank my constituents personally for showing up en masse to the many workshops, for filling out the surveys, the new communities that have recently, and well, not really recently, it's been 7-8 years since the ultra-Orthodox community, the Bells community, started moving families to Côte Saint-Luc from Outremont. They showed up en masse for the surveys to express their concerns. It's nice to see a community that is this engaged. I have it on good authority from Director Senecal that no city has gone to the lengths that we have gone to in engaging with our constituents, our residents on this process. Many have barely consulted at all. And for us to have reached almost 10% of our residents in some capacity, whether it's through the survey, through the workshops, my own residents in the focus on the Westminster corridor as being an area that really needed improvement. I forget who pointed it out first. We want this to be a beautiful boulevard, much like Graham in TMR, or there's so many examples, but Westminster, the potential there, all the way from the entrance to the city at Westover, all the way up to the entrance to the CP rail yards. There's so much potential. And that is one of the focuses of the master plan, one of these specific kind of development areas. So yeah, will changes be made to the master plan in the coming weeks? Probably. I love the idea of reaching out in particular to residents of District 1 and residents of the Vicomte and the other buildings in the area to make sure that if we haven't heard everyone, that we do hear everyone before this process ends in a few months. But really, we couldn't have done more. Collaboration, yes. Are people informed? For the most part, yep. The great majority of people in the city trust in their elected officials. They elected us to make decisions on their behalf. And we make those decisions that we believe are in the best interests of our constituents. Yeah. I mean, I've even consulted with my own kids who are probably going to be the most impacted by this document because it's going to take 15 to 20 years to roll out. My daughter's going to be in her early 30s and hopefully still living in Côte Saint-Luc and living on the Westminster corridor and shopping maybe on the avenue. Like, who knows? Anyway, I got nothing else to say. Thank you all, and thank you all for coming out tonight, too.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski. I really appreciate it. And you can tell that everybody's very emotionally attached to their positions and to the best interest of the city. We're all trying to do something that's for the best interest of the city. Did you want to add something? I know you both wanted to add something.
So if I could just...
Okay, let's agree that anybody who wants to speak a second time can, and that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
So I'll be brief because I don't want to repeat. I just want to rebut one or 2 points that Councillor Sabag mentioned. Just to say, Councillor Sabag mentioned when we were working on the final version, that Associate City Manager Abramovich was working on the final version of this up until a few days ago. Again, you did say the final version. Anyway, we can watch the Zoom a few days from now and compare. But so my point is, this is not the final version or final document. This is the draft document, to be crystal clear. This is the draft. If you read the motion, we are adopting the draft. It's the draft bylaw. Tonight is a draft document. This is not the 11th hour, as Councillor Sabag mentioned. This is the first hour. This is the beginning. This is where we start the actual consultation. This is where really the hard work begins. And this is why we're here, to hear your feedback. So again, this is not the final version. This is the draft version. This is not the 11th hour, it's the first hour. So this is the opportunity to hear from the residents. And I'll just finish by, and I have to admit, I did not thank our staff for their hard work on this. Really, we can't even count the number of hours and the time and dedication. So I want to take a moment to thank them. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Councillor Sabag. Councillor Burke.
Okay. So I also want to thank the staff, Melanie, Charles, Tanya, and Pascalie, and the whole clerk's office who was tirelessly working to put this together, and Tammy, you all know who you are, and Jonathan, I mean, you're all, it's fine. We've all been working very, very diligently and together. I want to just answer one question that Councillor Sabag asked, and I think, again, this is fundamental. How many of you knew that this plan is going to modify the 3 malls? Okay. In September 2022, we had an open house at the ACC, and many of you probably came there because we decided that we weren't going to go straight into drafting of the master plan. We were going to do a public consultation first. And when we did that, we hired a company to assist us and put out a very clear document, and I've asked, and it will be available to all of you, because I think that this kind of sums it up. And this is from September 2022, that's over 2 years ago. And it says, a crucial part of the future of Côte Saint-Luc is the revitalization of the city's 3 large shopping center sites, Cartier Cavendish, DeCarry Square, and the Côte Saint-Luc Shopping Center. Then it goes into the details and the pictures and the vision, which was all displayed at the ACC. And I was there that day, and most of us were there that day. And these visions are the visions as we have understood them and still understand them. So yes, there's a vision of a train station. Yes, there's a vision of access for the DeCarry Square, some kind of underpass to access to the metro. These are all mobility options that we are going to integrate into the new plans, and we are lucky that we have developers who are interested in promoting a mobility hub and the train station and the underpass, because we are enclaved no matter how you cut it. You just leave the status quo, do nothing on the malls, the traffic's going to get worse anyway. But I am convinced, and we hope to be able to convince you that actually developing these sites is not only going to generate less traffic on the sites, and we will make that demonstration, but is going to improve mobility for all the residents. And the other thing I wanted to say is there's 5 development areas. There's the 3 malls, there's Caldwell, there's Westminster. So the whole city is affected, and I think all the councillors, are understanding this, and we are going to reach out, and I'm more than happy, Zev, to come to DeCarry Square. I have actually offered to do that, and we will arrange it very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So,
Councillor Sabag.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there's a whole bunch of questions and answers and comments that have gone through. That document that Councillor Berku just showed everybody from 2022, I'm going to say it bluntly, was a failure to communicate with our residents. Because if you didn't know about this, and the residents of the Vicomte and the Luxor didn't know about this, and people around District 3, where Councillor Cohen is, if they didn't know about this, if the majority of people impacted by this didn't know about it, it was a failure, full stop. What should have been done was taking that document, exploded it into a 5x5, put it in the lobby or anywhere around the resident area, and have a barcode or some sort of telephone number people could call, email address, and get information on what's going on. But that did not happen. It did not. And so you can talk till the cows come home that this is a 2022 project, that we did this and we did that and we did that. Bottom line is the results show for themselves what our residents know today. The idea of getting the document ahead of time. I have a memo from staff, from Tanya Abramovich as well, that we were going to get this memo, this master plan on October 21st. It didn't happen, okay? For many reasons. We actually got it just late last week. So when I talk about delays, and what I'm opposed to is the idea of moving forward when we did not have time, where we had a month to take a look at it, to talk to our residents. It didn't happen. We're here tonight, and that's the main opposition I have. The traffic, we know is going to be an issue, and Councillor Azarad, with all due respect, there was never any traffic study done anywhere about this. No, but you have to have an idea of what the issues are in order to look at a master plan and say, okay, we're going to redevelop the Carey Square. Now, I'm just saying, but who? But that will trigger. Sorry. So okay. So this is the thing. And one other thing, just on that point. So we're clear, okay? Because when I heard Councillor Azarad say, that's not what the builders want. That's exactly what they want. That's exactly what they want. Builders and developers and the people that bought the Carey Square have been waiting for this to happen. They've been saying to investors, let's just wait for the master plan, and we're golden. So this is it. I'm not saying the process is too long, too short. I'm saying when Councillor Erdely says this is only the beginning, it's the beginning of the end. That's the problem, right? With all due respect as well, this is not a website. This is not a website that we're going live. This is people's lives that are at stake. Their quality of lives, the way they commute, what they're going to see, their views, how we're going to get to them, right? This is all part of this whole plan. And again, I'm not opposed to the vision that we have. I'm not. I'm opposed to the process that took us here. So, who's going to be here on January 13th? Nobody. Well, I'm just saying, nobody. Who's going to be here on January 13th? Who's going to be in Florida? Who's going to be still on vacation, right? So the people...
Okay, no debates.
No debates. Okay, so Councillor Sabag will finish.
No problem. So I'm just saying, January 13th, all the way till the end of this process, and our staff, Pascalie Tanguez, told us it's going to get all the way to March, April, right? So people are still away. We have the people that are most affected by this that are away. So you're going to be able to give your opinion on January 13th. There's going to be 2 votes, and then it's done. So I just want you guys to know about this. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag. All
Mr.
right,
Mayor,
so
I just want one last comment. I'll be very brief.
Go ahead, Councillor Cohen, you're the last one.
Councillor Burku talked about the show and tell we had with the 3 malls over 2 years ago. That's about the last time we've seen anything from them. They've been the invisible malls since then. So I think it's important to know that my concern is the fact that, like Councillor Sabag said, is that we're putting forward our quote-unquote vision for the 3 malls, including Cartier Cavendish, and that vision will likely end up being, as you can see around the table, it's 6-2 in favor of everything. So that'll probably be, whatever it is. So the mall will be able to, will have license to do whatever it wants based on the parameters that are being put together in this plan. And again, I'm very big on consultation. I think this plan is magnificent in terms of everything it entails. It's a beautiful document that people will read, and it's nothing less than impressive. But I'm very big on consultation. I have been in the 19 years I've been on council, and I have very little opportunity now to consult because I would have liked to consult on our vision for the mall going back to last summer. Now we're doing it again. Just like Councillor Sabag, many of my people who are going to be impacted by this most directly will be in Florida on January 13th, and I'm not sure they're going to come back from the pool and go on to Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. And thank you all for your comments. Now, we're going to go to the vote in a minute. I just want to, there will be a second question period. so you'll get to speak more. But I just want to add to say that, I mean, anybody who knows me knows I'm the communicator. During COVID, I made sure that everybody knew that we were the first to invoke masks. I was on the national news. It was even picked up on CNN. If you want to communicate, we'll want to communicate. If I want to get the people at the men's club in the Century Village to go to a meeting in a room and to invite everybody else that they know, we'll send a robocall and we'll make sure that they can meet them in Century Village in that hall. There are so many ways to communicate. There's no excuse in this day and age for us to not be able to go forward and give proper communication. I will ensure, whether it's through robocalls, whether it's through speaking to the president of the men's club and anybody else, that everybody knows what's going on and receive your feedback. Does that mean we're going to proceed on the timeline that we have right now? Not necessarily. If we get that much feedback and we can't proceed on the timeline that we want to proceed on because we need to make changes, so it's going to take more time. This is a vision document. It's not so scary. It's a vision document. And of course, the developers will be happy if we increase density on those sites, but we're not doing it for them. We're doing it for us. We're doing it for our people, for the people of Côte Saint-Luc, to have a better quality of life, to have a better tax base, whether you live on those sites or whether you live elsewhere in the community. We're doing it for ourselves, but we want to consult with everybody to make sure that we do it right, and we want to make sure that we get there. So as I hear there's some criticism that we didn't consult well enough, I want to make sure that we consult really well going forward. This, as Councillor Erdely said, is day one of the consultation process, and I want to make sure that everybody in the City of Côte Saint-Luc, all 33,000 residents, knows that this is happening and get their opportunity to provide their feedback, whether it's in writing through a survey, whether it's from hearing me on a robocall, or whether it's through online communication plans and district meetings, whatever's needed. But everybody will know about this plan. It's not going to be a secret. I guarantee that. So now that we have had that discussion, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? All opposed? So it's carried with Councillor Sabag and Councillor Cohen opposing. And now we go to the next item.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I'd like to propose that we do not proceed with the adoption of bylaw 2637 at this time. Because I feel it would be inappropriate. I feel we haven't spoken to enough residents and they have not been consulted prior to making such a significant decision.
Zoning bylaw.
If I may, on a point of order again. On a point of order,
Needs a seconder.
Councillor, sorry, I'll wait for the seconder.
Are we going to do this on every bylaw?
Yes.
Really?
So if I may,
Yeah. Point of order, Councillor.
Councillor Sabag is misrepresenting the facts again. This is not the adoption. This is a draft. This is the beginning of the consultation.
Okay, whatever it is.
It's adoption
Does
of
he
the
have a
draft
second?
bylaw, meaning it's the first reading, meaning it begins the consultation process. Okay, Councillor Sabag is misrepresenting again, making it seem like this is the final version. This is a draft bylaw. This begins a consultation process. Thank you.
I'd like you, if possible, Councillor Sabag, to amend your objection to all of them. I assume you want this to apply to all of them?
I would like to put my objection to all of them.
To all of them. So he would like them all moved. The numbers, we've done number two.
2637,
So now 3 to item number 9, he would like to have deferred. So all in favor?
Well, seconded and
Well, it's been seconded by Councillor Cohen.
perfect.
And all opposed. Okay, so it's going to be moving forward. So now we have Councillor Burku is doing the next one.
Yes, okay. So, be it resolved, where am I? That the provisions concerning zone numbers 400 and 500 in Schedule B of the Table of Uses and Norms of this draft bylaw be those tabled forthwith and attached herewith, and in conformity with an act respecting land use planning and development, the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby adopts draft bylaw number 2637 and entitled Zoning Bylaw of the City of Côte Saint-Luc in its entirety, as well as chapter by chapter, section by section, article by article, paragraph by paragraph, subparagraph by subparagraph, and subtext by subtext, so that if any chapter, section, article, paragraph, subparagraph, or subtext should be deemed null and void by a court of competent jurisdiction, All other provisions of this bylaw shall remain valid and fully applicable. That in conformity with Section 125 of the Act respecting land use planning and development, Council hereby sets the date of the public consultation meeting for January 13th, 2025 at 7 p.m. at a location to be determined by the city gref, by the city clerk.
Okay, so that's moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Erdely, I believe.
Yes.
Any discussion?
Yes. So first of all, the reason I started laughing, it's an inside joke, but I think I want to share it, is because I always like to say chapter and verse. And here I have a resolution that allows me to say chapter by chapter, section by section, article by article. So I'm very happy with that. Thank you, Mr. Jonathan Schechter. He knows the inside joke. The second thing is that the zoning is going to be revised according to this new map. And basically, what we're going to do is we're going to go chapter by chapter, section by section, and this is what our staff has been doing for the past month, okay? They've been going through each and every, but in this particular case, they've been going with a fine-tooth comb. Here it is. They've been going through a fine-tooth comb over every single piece of land. So the other day when I found out that there's a vacant land behind the Waldorf, immediately our Tanya Abramovich said, oh, of course, we know that. They've gone through every single section with a fine-tooth comb. No, I don't think it's going to be such a long debate, but they've revised and reviewed all of the setbacks, all of the lot coverages, all of the uses, created tables of uses. All of this has been a travail de moine, comme on dit en français, okay? This is a travail de moine. So, like a monk's work, like writing the Torah. So basically, I'm very much in favor. I'm very, very much in favor of this zoning bylaw, and I look forward to seeing how it's going to apply going forward. Thank you very much. Who wants to speak next? Anyone want to speak next? No? Okay, so we're going to call the vote?
I think we've spoken enough, honestly.
Okay, perfect. So I agree. You're going to have a second question period. We're staying all night, as long as it takes, okay? There's a second question period, but it's not going to go, it's going to go quite fast now, okay? Right, okay. So I'm calling the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? It passes. So then we move. I am. Right. I am voting. Okay, so I've lost track now. Who's next? But it's the bylaw. Hang on. It's item 4. It's bylaw, subdivision bylaw of the City of Côte Saint-Luc. I think that's Councillor Azred. Thank you.
Thank you. Be it resolved that in conformity with the Act respecting land use, planning, and development, the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby adopts draft bylaw number 2636 entitled Subdivision Bylaw of the City of Côte Saint-Luc in its entirety, as well as chapter by chapter, section by section, article by article, paragraph by paragraph, subparagraph by subparagraph, subtext by subtext, so that if any chapter, section, article, paragraph, subparagraph, or subtext should be deemed null and void by a court of competent jurisdiction, all other provision of this bylaw shall remain valid and fully applicable. That in conformity with Section 125 of the Act respecting land use, planning, and development, Council hereby sets the date of the public consultation meeting for January 13th, 2025 at 7 p.m. at a place determined by the City Clerk.
Merci, Conseiller Azerad. Who seconds? Andy Schuster, seconded by Andy Schuster. Any discussion? No, so I'll call the vote on draft bylaw 2636, and I am voting. All in favor? Thank you. All opposed? Councillor Cohen and Councillor Sabag dissenting. Thank you. We'll now call for a vote on the proposer for bylaws 2638, site planning and architectural integration bylaw. I believe it's Councillor Kujawski.
Yes, thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Be it resolved that in conformity with the Act respecting land use, planning, and development, the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby adopts the draft bylaw number 2638 entitled Site Planning and Architectural Integration Bylaw in its entirety, as well as chapter by chapter, section by section, article by article, paragraph by paragraph, subparagraph by subparagraph, and subtext by subtext, so that if any chapter, section, article, paragraph, subparagraph, or subtext should be deemed null and void by a court of competent jurisdiction, all other provisions of this bylaw shall remain valid and fully applicable. That, in conformity with Section 125 of the Act respecting land use, planning, and development, Council hereby sets the date of the public consultation meeting for January 13th, 2025 at 7 p.m. At a place to be determined by the City Clerk.
Moved by Councillor Kujawski, seconded by? There is no. This is number 6?
Councillor Schuster.
Oh, Councillor Schuster. Okay. We're doing that one now. Any discussion?
This one is
No,
dear to my heart.
We're talked out.
We're talked out. All in favor?
Talk about it?
I don't think it's necessary, but
You want to explain what it is?
it's relevant. It's the most relevant, well, the most relevant to PAC.
Well, you
Go
have
ahead.
a
No, you
PAC
go ahead.
member
You're-
sitting right here. Go ahead. Go for it.
And former PAC member. No, you're better.
No, she's a PAC member.
I know, Laura. Hi, Laura. How are you? No, it's not necessary. You don't have to go.
You want to say
It's
something?
been a
Go ahead.
lot.
Okay, so basically, yes. You want to say something? Okay, thank you. Après vous, Gaston. So basically, what this site planning and architectural planning bylaw involves is a lot of guidelines for the PAC committee, of which we have a member sitting right here, and we thank you very much for attending this meeting. So now you see how exciting our meetings are. And also Melanie Rothpan, who is the staff person responsible for the PAC committee, and Mitch Kajawski, who is the chairman of the PAC committee. I mean, this bylaw is going to allow our members of PAC, which is one of the best PAC groups that we've ever had in the city of Côte Saint-Luc, and I've been around 30 years, so I'm telling you, it is the best.
34.
34. So it is the best by far, and it's going to give them guidelines which they have already had input into, okay? This is something that's not attached to the master plan, and I'm speaking to those councillors who may be thinking about voting against it. This is not attached to the master plan. These are guidelines for the city to follow when it comes to new projects. There's no mention in here of a public security station. There's no mention in here of traffic on the carry. There's no mention in here of buildings anywhere. It is the guidelines for the planning and architectural integration. So to vote against this based on a notion that it has something to do with the master because it's vaguely related to the master plan is, again, in my view, misinformed. That's what I have to say.
Okay.
If I may.
Sure.
Just an excerpt as relates to DeCarry Square, specifically in the SPIP bylaw. The development goal for the site is to transform the shopping center into a complete living environment that includes housing, services, businesses, offices, and public spaces. This new neighborhood aims to propose quality architecture, offer a diversity of housing typologies, serve as a true hub of sustainable mobility. I mean, I could go on, but I won't because it's close to 10 o'clock. But again, just to echo Councillor Burku's words, for those thinking about voting against it, there is only positive in here for our ability to decide what goes up in our city, what is built in our city, PAC's recommendations to council on how we make these decisions, and specifically to the 3 major developments that are going to be the future of our city.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great.
Real quick. So I just hope that for this particular January 13th date, that we do everything to make sure that people that live far from the district, that live far from, I don't know, I heard some proposals on where it might be, but clearly it's not going to be at the Carey Square, to have as many people from the district there, and as well, if we need to do a satellite site to have this type of meeting within the district, I would certainly appreciate it. And since we are pointing out people that are here, I'd like to point out 3 people from EMS, so Atik Sidik, Kia Saint-Pierre, and Steve Merling that are here from EMS, lieutenants lieutenants, right? Or commanders, what do you guys know? Captains from EMS that give so much time, and I wanted to recognize them. They're here today. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, so that's it for you guys? One more. Oh, Councilor Azarad.
Just in response to Dita's, the reason you have the best pack is because you have the 2 newest councilors on board.
You're right.
Well, you're definitely great.
Forgot to mention.
Okay, great. So I was at a meeting on budget at the Aglo at 5:30, and I only got here at 6:45. So that's why I'm eating a bit now, but hopefully this won't go forever so I can actually eat. All right, so it's been, we're good?
We're good. No,
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone against?
You don't look surprised, but I'm not voting against everything out of spite.
And you're in favor or no? No, against. Councilor Sabac is against. Okay, item number 6, Councilor Kajawski. This is you do it alone. Oh, it's a notice of motion and tabling. Trying to freeze you up.
Thank
Just a
you,
notice
Mr.
of
Mayor.
motion.
I hereby give notice of motion that the draft bylaw number 2639 to be entitled Permits and Certificates Bylaw of the City of Côte Saint-Luc will be presented for adoption. I'll mention as well the object and scope of draft bylaw number 2639 to be entitled Permits and Certificates Bylaw of the City of Côte Saint-Luc.
Him again.
I will as well table draft bylaw number 2639 to be entitled Permits and Certificates Bylaw of the City of Côte Saint-Luc.
Thank you, Councilor Kajawski. Okay, so that's a notice of motion and tabling. So there's no vote, right?
Correct.
Now we go on to number 7. Councilor Kajawski, number 7. This one has an adoption. So Councilor Kajawski, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me just get to the page again. It's 1504. That's 1,504, by the way, for those counting page number. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hereby give notice of motion that the draft bylaw number 2640 to be entitled Building Bylaw of the City of Côte Saint-Luc will be presented for adoption. I mention as well the object and scope of draft bylaw number 2640 to be entitled Building Bylaw of the City of Côte Saint-Luc. I will also table draft bylaw number 2640 to be entitled Building Bylaw of the City of Côte Saint-Luc.
Moved by Councilor Kajawski.
Oh, in French.
And an adoption of the draft bylaw.
Yeah. So, il est résolu quand...
Moved by Councilor Kajawski,
yep.
seconded by Councilor Azarad.
Thank you, Councilor.
Yeah, you just did it.
No, we didn't.
No, that was the tabling. That was just the tabling.
Oh, you didn't do the adoption of the draft?
You don't
Okay.
have to adopt
The
the
resolution.
tabling.
No, he does the adoption of the draft.
Adoption.
Yeah. Okay, so I will do it in French. Il est résolu qu'en conformité avec la loi sur l'aménagement et l'urbanisme, le conseil municipal de la Ville de Côte Saint-Luc adopte par la présente le projet de règlement numéro 2640 intitulé Règlement de construction de la Ville de Côte Saint-Luc dans son ensemble et également chapitre par chapitre, section par section, article par article, alinéa par alinéa, paragraphe par paragraphe, sous-paragraphe par sous-paragraphe et sous-texte par sous-texte, de sorte que si un chapitre, une section, un article, un alinéa, un paragraphe, un sous-paragraphe ou un sous-texte du présent règlement était ou venait à être déclaré nul par un tribunal ayant juridiction en la matière, les autres dispositions du présent règlement demeurent valides et pleinement applicables, en conformité avec l'article 125 de la loi sur l'aménagement et l'urbanisme. Le Conseil fixe par la présente la date de l'Assemblée publique de consultation pour le 13 janvier 2025 à 19h dans une location où what is the French? Qui soit déterminé par la greffière du Ville de Côte Saint-Luc.
OK. Proposé par le conseiller Kujawski, appuyé par le conseiller Azarad. Merci. Est-ce qu'il y a des discussions? Non? Pas de discussion? Non? OK. Tout le monde en faveur? OK. Et opposé? OK. Carried with Councillor Sabag opposing. And now we go to item number 8. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hereby give notice of motion that draft bylaw number 2631 to be entitled bylaw to increase the supply of affordable social and family housing will be presented for adoption. Furthermore, I'm mentioning the object and scope of the draft bylaw and tabling the draft bylaw as well. Oh, and I'm just noticing, I think a typo on page 1554 that within the tabling, just maybe for Ms. Schechter or Madame Tanguay, just to correct the bottom page 1554. And furthermore, I'm moving that to be it resolved that in conformity with the Act respecting land use, planning, and development, the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby adopts the draft bylaw number 2631 entitled Bylaw to Increase the Supply of Affordable Social and Family Housing in its entirety, as well as chapter by chapter, section by section, article by article, paragraph by paragraph, subparagraph by subparagraph, and subtext by subtext, so that if any chapter, section, article, paragraph, subparagraph, or subtext should be deemed null and void by court of competent jurisdiction, all other provisions of this bylaw shall remain valid and fully applicable, that in conformity with section 125 of the Act respecting land use, planning, and development, Council hereby sets the date of the public consultation meeting for January 13th, 2025 at 7 p.m. at a place to be determined by the city clerk.
Moved by Councillor Erdely and seconded by Councillor Schuster, I think, maybe.
So just to, if I may just speak briefly, so this is a bylaw that will call for a certain percentage of the land or the properties being set aside for affordable or social housing. This is something I think is needed. It's something we've talked about for years. I can share that in my district, it happens often. I get calls from residents who can't afford their rent, who are having difficulty, who are living alone, elderly, and this is basically to give them more opportunities. I have spoken to recently to the director of Kahila, who shared with me that they have hundreds of people on their waiting list waiting for an opportunity to have social and affordable housing. This is something truly needed within the community and on the island of Montreal. And it's something that I hope on this one, if there is one resolution that we will get unanimity on tonight, I hope it is this one, because otherwise it does seem, if I can quote, Councillor Cohen, it seems like people are voting against just out of spite. So I will hope that this is unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sabag.
So I wanted to specifically mention that when reading this one, it is an important one. As a nurse, it hits me hard to vote against it, so I will vote for it. But I still want to mention that every one that I voted against was the overall way this was brought up tonight. It's not specific to the bylaws themselves, the drafting of the bylaws, but it's more of the process how we got here. So I will, for the sake of affordable housing, family housing, etc., and the social aspects of it, voting with it.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag. Anyone else want to speak? No? Okay. All in favor? No one's opposed. Carried unanimously. And we go to item 9. Councillor Burku.
Oh, that's me?
Yep.
Par la présente, je donne avis de motion. Attendez, je vais mettre mon micro. Par la présente, je donne avis de motion que le projet de règlement numéro 2644, à être intitulé Règlement relatif à la démolition d'immeubles, sera présenté pour adoption. Et je dépose le projet de règlement numéro 2644 à être intitulé Règlement relatif à la démolition d'immeubles.
Proposé.
Et de plus,
Ok, non.
attendez, et de plus, attendu qu'un avis de motion a été donné en même temps qu'un dépôt de projet de règlement a été à la séance extraordinaire du conseil municipal tenue le 20 novembre 2024, il est résolu qu'en conformité avec la loi sur l'aménagement et l'urbanisme, le conseil municipal de la Ville de Côte Saint-Luc adopte par la présente le projet de règlement numéro 2644 intitulé Règlement relatif à la démolition d'immeubles dans son ensemble et également chapitre par chapitre, section par section, article par article, alinéa par alinéa, paragraphe par paragraphe, sous-paragraphe par sous-paragraphe et sous-texte par sous-texte, de sorte que si un chapitre, une section, un article, un alinéa, un paragraphe ou un sous-paragraphe ou un sous-texte du présent règlement a été ou venait à être déclaré nul par un tribunal ayant juridiction en la matière, les autres dispositions du présent règlement demeurent valides et pleinement applicables. Qu'en conformité avec l'article 125 de la loi sur l'aménagement et l'urbanisme, le Conseil fixe par la présente la date de l'Assemblée publique de consultation pour le 13 janvier 2025 à 19 heures dans un local à être déterminé par la greffière de la Ville de Côte Saint-Luc.
Merci. Appuyé par le conseiller Burkou et proposé par le conseiller Burkou et appuyé par le conseiller Kajaski, je pense. Oui, OK.
I just want to mention something that I kind of forgot to mention before, and I think that since this is the end, this is the last one.
This is not the end. This is
the beginning of the end.
Of the end. This is the end of the beginning.
The end of the beginning of the end. Just the beginning. Okay. No, I mean the end of this list that we have here tonight. That's what I meant. Okay. I just want to say that from day one, Councillor Sabag, from day one, and this isn't recent, you've been telling us, and me in particular, you know I'm voting no. You know I'm voting no. You know I'm voting no. You've been voting no against this from the beginning. It's not from, oh, we didn't have consultation. It's not from, oh, suddenly you discovered that it's being rushed. From day one, I'm voting no. And that's a big difference.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
I'd like to respond to this.
That's all I'm
I
saying.
take offense
Okay.
to that statement. I never said from day one. I listened. I sat at every meeting till 11 o'clock.
Precisely.
No, and hold on a second. I contributed to this, and I told you specifically in June that there was delays after delays, and even in committee, and I don't want to get into personal issues here, because if we do, we'll stay here all night, right? So I want to make sure that people understand that I haven't been voting no for the sake of voting no. I vote no for all the reasons that I mentioned here today, and for you to say in front of everybody here publicly that I told you that I'm voting no and I'm voting no, you knew very well what was happening. I told you this months ago, that the delays would cause issues as we got into 2025. And I request an apology for what you just did here tonight.
An apology? Yes. Okay, so my question to you is, did you ever have a substantive issue with anything? Did you ever raise a substantive issue with
I raised the communication issue through and through, and you know it.
Okay.
He's allowed to vote no anyway. You can vote no whenever you want, and you can decide to vote no when you want, and it doesn't make a difference. When you did, how you did, it's fine.
The fact that you waited till the end to do this shows quite a bit of...
Let's get on with this, please. We live in a democracy. People can say what they want and vote how they want, and it's not a place of a councillor to question.
All I can say is overall, I think you guys really acted with overall, with the exception of the last comments, with dignity, with respect, politeness. Other levels of government should see how we acted tonight, and we should continue to always be able to act like that. The last comments were needed. So, okay, so that's it.
Okay, so I have to retract the last comments that I made?
Retract it.
Okay,
We didn't need it.
I'm retracting the last comments that I made.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
did we vote on that one? We vote? No, we didn't vote on it. So, okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, it's carried with Councillor Sabag opposed, and congratulations to all of the councillors for their input into the master plan, for the way they acted throughout this process, and I hope we continue to act in the same way as we go through the consultation period. Now we're going to have a second question period, as long as everyone agrees. So we need to vote on that, or everybody did agree? To vote on it? Okay, questions from the public. It's not formal, but I guess you could just go to the mic one at a time and just sort of stand in line like they do at other places. Just whoever wants to speak, come to the microphone and then just sort of stand behind the lemon. You don't have to all stand the whole time, but, you know, keep it going.
Okay, am I under the right impression that you don't have a final date to finalize this grand plan? So there's no final.
Well, we have a schedule. It could change.
No, but when do you make your final decision?
When's the proposed final draft vote?
Know that
What is it? In March?
It depends if there's a register or not.
That's the earliest that it could happen is March 10th, based on the present timeline.
But you haven't done all the consultation.
We're not there yet.
So how can you have a final date?
Well, you always have to make a timeline. You have to make meetings. They could change, but you have to set something up.
And what is the percentage of that you take into account the residents in terms of making your final decision after your consultations?
Well, that...
Like, let's say for DeCarry Square.
That would be, obviously all the councillors are very empathetic and they're going to listen to the will of the people, and then they would all have to make a decision together if it would be voted upon. But like I said at the beginning, this is an intelligent council who has empathy and courage, and they're going to make the right decision. But we're want to hear from the people. I can't predict that.
But we don't have an end. Are you going to have more consultations? Therefore, you don't have how can you have a final date?
Yeah, but we have a schedule. We have a schedule of meetings. And
I know, but
that
is
could
that
change.
Flexible, or is that?
Of course, it's flexible.
Because you haven't done all the questioning and everything.
Right.
It's still in flux.
It's still in flux.
So that means the end date is somewhere unknown.
You never know. It could be in the next mandate. Who knows? I might not even be mayor.
What I want to know is also that I heard a lot about this dream situation for Côte Saint-Luc, raising money. That seemed to be the main focus, but I hope we're like Bhutan. That's the city of happiness, that when we do this major plan, not only do we raise money, but we have happy residents.
You're talking to the mayor of happiness, of course. That's the number one thing.
I hope we keep in mind that it's not only money that we're after, but we have to...
I know. I got front page news on the Gazette. It's called the Singing Mayor Wants to Make Anglos Have Fun. Of course, I want you all happy all the time.
Okay, so I just want to know that there's a balance. It's not just a money grab.
It's not a money grab. No, we want you to be happy,
I'm not
of course.
Okay.
We want you to be happy.
And also, I wanted to say there's always two sides to the story. You said that nobody came out for the first 2022, but you can't only blame the organizers. There's apathy on the terms of the residents that don't show up as well. So it takes two to tango and three to foxtrot. So also, I just wanted to say something. You talked about the malls, why they're degenerating. You know what? It's degenerating, because it's not up to date, number one. But number two, the greedy owners, that they charge too much of a high rent, that a lot of people couldn't afford the rent. And that's why they tried to empty they cut down Cavendish Mall twice. And so I think it's two sides. Once it's the shopping centers are not relevant. And secondly, I think that the greedy the owners of these shopping centers cause part of the decline as well. I also wanted to know, did you talk to Quebec? Did any of you, not only Côte Saint-Luc, you have to talk to, what's happening to DeCarry Square? It's so run down. We need a plan d'action for DeCarry Square. How can you build condominiums on DeCarry Square? There's too many cars. DeCarry Boulevard can't even accommodate the traffic now. I think the governments, the local governments have to get together and gang up on whoever provides money to expand the carry, because that's totally out of date. Okay, I think, one minute, just want to see. Okay, I just wanted to say that I know Tanya from a long time when she was a librarian, and I've never met somebody who was so enthusiastic and hardworking and had a lot of heart and soul. So if she's involved in this project, it's got to be good.
Thank you.
Excellent
That's
comments.
true.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Faggy.
You got a vote of confidence for that. Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, Sharon.
Because
Sharon,
Abramovich has my mother's maiden name, and half the Abramovich are related, I wanted to say that, first of all, you mentioned my favorite organization that I give big time to, which is Kahila. So there's 2 more buildings before you even start to renovate and redevelop Côte Saint-Luc. There's Walkley that I've been fighting for to get rebuilt or renovated. They are finally, I guess my nagging and my T-shirt is going to pay off. They are going to be demolishing it early January. So that's number 1. When they will build, but I'm going to be, let me tell you, and with hopefully they'll be out, that's going to happen. That's 1. The second one, the blank, I have a picture of it, but Kahila 2 or 3, that I do give big time to, is supposed to break ground either this spring, I'm hoping this spring. She said maybe fall, but I'm hoping this spring. And it's desperately needed. That's 200 units at least. So right there you have between Walkley, new development, Kahila for sure, and these people are going to be using Côte Saint-Luc Road, more traffic, etc. So that's number 1. You better all start to think. I'm also going to a major Italian event next week with all the major builders, let me tell you, and I'm going to be talking to one of them about a project. So that's 3. 4, I have to say, I have nothing against redevelopment or looking to the vision. I love to renovate. I love building. I swear I'm in the wrong business, but I love it. But Oren and Michael are absolutely right. You cannot, we heard nothing from you from the first time we came. All I heard was I'm getting a coffee shop. I'm still waiting for that coffee shop. I have not gone to the new mall.
Question, please.
The traffic is terrible. But the fact is, there's been, I think, little transparency. There's been no...
Okay, Sharon, it's a second question period. Please, if you have a question, get to the question.
Well, the question is, they're right. January is not a time to hold any kind of a vote. Most of our people are away. Not before we hear exactly what's going to happen at the Carey Square. And 3, again, no building before you put up some roads. And that's absolute. I mean, I've already spoken to Pierre Poilievre on this, a few lawyers, Oren, because he's really caring and he's doing what he can, but he's one person. So this is not going to fly if you're going to try to ram through something before we really know what's going to happen there and what kind of development it is. Not everything is high-rise and money. You can make plenty of money in doing townhouses, too.
There's still other people who want to ask questions.
Sorry?
No, there's still other people behind you that want to ask a question, but if there is a
Okay,
specific...
well, I think you heard me.
I did. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Terrence, and this is my first attendance to a council vote. I've been here during the series of workshops. Some of them I didn't come to, some of them I were able to attend. I just want to point out that there's a common theme tonight that is very similar across North America, wherein certain of you have used, under the guise of consultation or lack of, to derail the proceedings, and I found that somewhat reprehensible. And some of the comments were quite inflammatory, and I didn't appreciate that one bit. And that being said, what I'm noticing is that these consultations are probably, much like tonight, going to be marathons of, of many hours, and the kind of people who will be able to attend these meetings and consultations will not be representative of the general population. Not everybody is going to be able to stay for hours on end debating or giving their opinion. Secondly, on that matter, is that a lot of people, I've seen a lot of comments throughout the workshops and tonight. A lot of the comments are actually quite anecdotal, quite personal. They're not based on empirical facts. And I just hope that, even though I admire that Côte Saint-Luc wants to go for a very heavily consultative approach to the master plan, I just want to point out that we have a very competent and experienced team of urban planners who have studied years on how to develop these things. And I would not want to see, under the guise of consultation, a derailment of the master plan, even though the master plan, I've had the chance to go through around 100 pages during the first question period. A lot of this master plan actually makes a lot of sense, and Councillor Azarad has pointed out a lot of very simple, common sense facts about raising more revenue, about increasing density. Councillor Burku has been very, and Ms. Abramovich have both been very vocal about the mobility factor about Côte Saint-Luc, and this...
But we'll do our best to make sure that consultation doesn't derail the process. I know that's your question, and we will do our best to ensure that that's not going to happen.
Yes. Well, anyway, my point, and I just want to say that this master plan has not been a surprise attack. It's been at least a year. I've been to the workshop where we've talked about the redevelopment malls, potentially, about the roads, about the services. This is not a surprise attack. I don't know why it's being perceived as such by some. But I just don't really have a question because this is merely a draft.
I appreciate that you came. Is this your first council meeting?
Yes.
Well, thank you for
So
coming.
yes, I just want to say I appreciate the draft. I find it's quite solid, and I do look forward to iterations, and I will be here on January 13th.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
If you're concerned about taxes, maybe charge admission. It's a very, very good.
What?
I said if you're concerned about taxes, maybe think about charging admission at the front.
Admission.
Very good. My question is directed to Councillor Cohen. I hope you're well. Thank you for your work since 2005, the last 19 years. I guess I'd like to understand a little bit more from your perspective what your concern is specifically with the placement of the EMS or the public safety station. Given the fact that they've undergone and looked at where the best place is for the lives of our residents. Very grateful for the work that you do for the CAT committee and for the CATs of Côte Saint-Luc, but I think it's important to perhaps prioritize the lives of my family, our neighbors, your citizens. I think that's an important piece here. So is it the sirens that are at night? Because if that's the case, we're very careful not to use sirens at night to disturb neighbors. I mean, this location is feet away from Cavendish Mall, which is arguably the center of activity.
I never said that I was against it. What I said was I'm deeply concerned about the fact I went door to door in September on Park Place. I spent a lot of time actually because I walk my district once or twice a week, and I walk every street and I talk to people, and I was robbed of the opportunity to tell any of them that the public safety station was designated to be on that land. So it's not me. I don't live near there. I'm not going to be personally affected, but I feel my constituents need to have a voice, and I would have liked to have been able to tell them in advance, and then I might have voted in favor of going to consultation, but I don't know how they feel. I know I've spoken to a few of them in the last few days since I knew it was in the master plan, and the people living right near there are not happy, and I can't really give them much of a background. So in all good conscience, as their representative, I can't go forward and approve, give my approval for a project that my residents don't know anything about. How big would it be? You know, they don't know anything. There's nothing I can tell them. So it's a matter of public consultation. I have not been able to share anything with them. They're completely, so they'll come on January 13th, and maybe there'll be more information. Many of them are watching online tonight because they couldn't get babysitters and so on and so forth. But we'll see what they say. If my residents in large number living in that area are against it, well, I have to support them. And if
I hear
they
you.
are in favor of it, then I'll support it.
I hear you. And as an EMS volunteer and as a resident, I would say that they should be very, very grateful to have.
You live on what street?
I live on Wolseley.
Okay, but you don't live on Park Place or Jubilee.
No, but I live on Wolseley.
Okay.
Okay, and I can tell you that they should be very grateful to have the public safety
understand.
station. Wait,
I
let me finish, please. Let me finish, please.
Yeah.
They should be very grateful to have the public safety station in their district. I'm sure Councillor Erdely, and I don't want to speak on his behalf, is near devastated to be losing the public safety station
Well,
from
he's
his.
not losing anything because there's no,
Not
there's
just
no
yet, but
plan.
he
there's no
will-
budget.
okay,
We're not going to go
me-
back and forth.
But anyhow, I don't think, Ms. Burley, you got my point, so.
Thank you,
Very well.
Councillor Cohn. I could say, just in summary, Steve Merling, I just want to say that a lot of things in the master plan, I know the question that you're asking. There's a lot of things in the master plan that are good for the population at large, but the neighbor won't like. But that's what we as a council and me as a mayor, particularly because I don't represent a particular district, so I'm always thinking about what's good for the city at large. I don't think of a neighbor.
Right.
I think of the city at large.
That's
And that's what we do. And as a mayor, it's easier for me to do it. I understand it's harder for a councilor. For me as a mayor, I think of the whole city at large. But Councillor Sabag wanted to ask first, and then you can go after. He asked first.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a couple of things on that front, and I think we all need to make sure we understand that when we vote no, we vote on the process that got us here, right? And the process that got us here, unfortunately, excluded certain aspects of different districts that are impacted the most. Now, to the gentleman who came on before you, sir, I don't know your name, I don't know where you live, but I can tell you that I invite you to come to Vezina. I invite you to come at 8 o'clock in the morning to see the gridlocks, to see the chaos and the honking, and to see how much time it takes to get from Clanranald 3 blocks east to the Carry. I have a picture on my phone. I take that road every day, by the way. Excuse me, Councillor Berku. I take that road every single day. Every single day. And if you need to leave the house after 7:30, you're cooked. You're completely cooked. And we do not have today, and I'll welcome any comments you have, and we do not have today any solution, and we haven't listened to the people that live in that district. And that's why I'm voting no today. You're right, this is not a process that should come as a surprise. But the same time you come to Vezina at 8 o'clock in the morning, I invite you to come. I'll put a table in the lobby of the Vicomte and at the Luxor, and we can ask people if they're aware of the things that are going on, if they're aware that there's a meeting on January 13th, if they're aware that that this rezoning that we just voted on will impact them in a year from now, in 2 years from now. There's things that are going to happen very, very fast. And that's why I'm saying I appreciate your comment, but I also want you to appreciate the fact that we're listening. We are listening. We are elected officials. We listen to our residents, and when they say they don't know much about it, we have to make sure that at one point we can get some signatures and deposit the signatures, and we have people here that listen to us day in, day out, and ask great questions around that. And you did ask great questions. I also don't want the whole thing to be derailed. I also don't want it. I think there's great ideas in it, right? But what do we do about the people on David Lewis, on Tommy Douglas, right? On Jubilee? These are the important aspects where we did not take in consideration yet. We will. And just so you know, this whole process is going to be very fast. People don't know this. We said it's going to take, in March, this is fait accompli.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just I want to respond to Mr. Merling's point and just maybe slightly. I wasn't going to respond to Councillor Spag's point, but I can't help myself. But I'll start with Mr. Merling, and I'll say this: look, the possibility of EMS moving out of District 4 is a very difficult one for me. You know, I have to admit, and I shared this with my fellow councilors earlier,
It's not moving so fast. Maybe
I'm saying the possibility of it one day moving is not a simple one. Now, what I said is, you know, right now being in the heart of District 4, obviously it's a benefit to the residents of my district. At the same time, the struggle is, as the struggle should be for all of us, including Councillor Sabag, is that we have to look at the city as a whole. You know, my job is to make sure I improve the parks in my district. I have to make sure that, you know, Schwartz Park gets updates to the splash pad, that there's a fence put up behind the hockey arena so that the puck doesn't go into the community garden, that the Prudhomme Park gets extra benches, that Earl Park gets new wood chips and so on.
We have one more speaker.
The point is...
You're the last speaker, by the way.
The point is, it's a tough one, but sometimes we have to look at the city as a whole, which is why I guess my point is, in spite of my hesitation about the possibility of it moving, I am still in favor of the master plan because overall, I do think it is an amazing document. I think it sets the future of the city. And like I said earlier, we can't necessarily go on every single point, but on the substance as a whole. But I just also want to make a point again. My final point is there have been 24, 25 opportunities for residents. There have been about, I think I'm looking at an email from Director Levine, our Director of Communications, 23 emails as part of our e-newsletter in terms of the master plan. If residents are interested, if they sign up for our e-newsletter, if they go to our website, they'll get the information. If they don't necessarily, they won't. We're doing our best. We're sending out postcards. We're sending emails. We're trying to get, hopefully people will read the Suburban and get the information there. You know, and my last analogy, and I shared this with the council, is they interviewed on one of the late night talk shows people the day after the U.S. election. There was Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, I can't remember which one. They interviewed people the day after the election and found people who didn't realize the election had already passed. They didn't know who won. There were some people who didn't even know who was running. So yes, there'll always be people who are not aware. Our goal is to make sure to promote this, to get as many people involved in the process, as many people informed. And again, this is the first day, the first hour. We have our work cut out for us, and that's what we'll do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No, it's true. 10% of the population we've reached, and in municipal politics, people aren't interested. It's really hard to get people to come out and vote. We had problems to get people to vote for demerger. People just are apathetic. So I think we're doing pretty well if we're already at 10%. And if we get to 20 or 30 or 40%, that would be like amazing. This is not going to reach 100%, even though we'll send a robocall to everybody. Anyway, next.
That's what. I'm tired. I guess we're all tired. Okay. I've been following on the Government of Canada infrastructure site smart cities and cities that signed up, and I noticed Côte Saint-Luc there. Now, I was also under the impression you got large financial subsidies from the federal government from doing so. So what amount did you get from the City of Côte Saint-Luc?
Okay, so for the first round, we got $250,000 to prepare our proposal for the final round, which was across Canada. We were in the top 10, and in order to prepare that proposal, we got $250,000. Okay.
Right, so we have the proposal, though, which is great. I think it's a great proposal.
And our proposal is great. And also we got $1 million, no, we didn't get, but we have a project called the Living Lab, which has been financed by the Quebec government and the researchers who work with the City of Côte Saint-Luc and myself and Tanya in particular. And the grant there is close to $1 million. And I'm very much looking forward to applying for further grants so that we can maintain our Living Lab project and expand it to the entire community.
Right.
Mr. Mayor,
and
we'll
we're
discuss it
offline. German, it's great. It helps. It's using technology to stay communicated with people in their homes, particularly seniors, to improve their quality of life. Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn,
All in
please.
favor?
I second.
We're adjourned. Thank you.